The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Saturdays or Sundays, SOR Media, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this broadcast or podcast without the express written consent of SOR Media is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised. Are you experienced? Then come own the night with us.
Little brother has taken control, shoveling dirt in every hole. Predators to condemn your soul, watching you and watching me. We're all
stationed atop the mountains of British Columbia, live from SOR headquarters. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
We live behind glass curtains and act like nothing's wrong. Soon you will belong.
You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, and on Spaced Out Radio on iTunes. You can follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, and on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR, on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio.
Brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye with the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride on Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized.
It's Wednesday, February 28th, Thursday, March 1st, if you're on the East Coast or across the pond, and this is Spaced Out Radio. Hope you had a great day and night. I am your host, Dave Scott, welcoming you into the Great White North and the Caribou region on top of the snowy mountains of central British Columbia, right here at SOR headquarters. We are 150,000 strong nightly on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. We are live as well on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. We are also live at spacedoutradio.com, Spreaker, The Fringe FM, and if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to revolution.radio and donate today. We are all over social media. You can watch us live on periscope.tv right now every Monday through Friday. You can also check us out on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, you can follow me at Dave Scott SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio for our archives. We are on iHeartRadio in the United States. TalkStream Live. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download and subscribe to our shows on iTunes. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. Now, we do have a GoFundMe account going on right now, so if you want to help out, help us get to a brand new studio, we'd take your help. Go to YouTube, make that GoFundMe.com/We Own the Night. That's GoFundMe.com/We Own the Night. And if you head to our website, spacedoutradio.com, you can also read up on the encounter online dealing with everything paranormal, strange, and odd. My latest blog is there as well. You can do a little shopping at the Spaced Out Radio store. We got great videos from UFO Seekers, Contact TV, and so much more. What is being sprayed in our friendly skies? You know, you only have to go back about 20-25 years and remember what actual blue sky looked like. But fast forward to now, and those blue skies have turned into misty clouds, which seem to be sprayed by aircraft. Yet the purpose of it is still quite an unknown. Is it to help global warming? Is it some sort of weather control module? Is it aliens poisoning our atmosphere? Matt Landman is one of the leading researchers when it comes to what they call Chem Trails. Now, we've had Matt on this show a couple of times before. Matt left the corporate world to become an organic farmer where he unknowingly had an actual career as an activist. He was working outdoors on his farm, all of a sudden looked up above, saw what he thought was weather engineering in Northern California. Did not like it, considering it was happening during the catastrophic drought. This made Matt change his career path once again, and he has now devoted his existence to exposing what these chemtrails are all about. Matt Landman, it's always good to have you on the show, my friend. It's been a while. How you been doing?
Hey, Dave. Thanks for the awesome introduction. I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. How about you?
You know, I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. And you know what, my friend, I can tell you this. When I moved up north in the summer of 2015, I had no idea what blue skies were all about. And it's amazing how when you move to a less populated area, how much clearer the skies really are.
Yeah, I've noticed that as well. People in more isolated regions don't get as much spraying, it seems.
So let's take you back to the time when you decided to get out of the corporate world, and let's introduce you to our audience here, some who maybe have never heard your story before. And let's learn about why you decided to get out of the corporate world and into organic farming.
Okay. Yeah, well, I try to convey to people whenever I'm doing a presentation or going on shows or whatnot that I'm just a normal person. So I grew up on the East Coast, got out of high school, went to university, and ended up on the West Coast finally, going to grad school in Northern California, and I'd worked so many different jobs. And after getting out of school with my master's in business and a film degree, I got into finance analyst work, and I was doing stock market stuff, and I had literally walked so many different paths that I wanted to get into organic farming. And because of the rural atmosphere where I was on Northern California coast, it was ideal for me to be able to step into that because I had usually lived in cities all my life. And so just stepping into the organic farming world, I learned so much that I never learned indoors. And I started looking at the systems, and I saw the sky, and I saw, the rain clouds and these different clouds that I didn't recognize. And I slowly but surely woke up when some serious weather modification was occurring on the edge of an incoming storm. It was during the catastrophic drought, like you mentioned. And as the storm rolled in, this particular storm, where I was out harvesting pumpkins because it was an early October storm, and the weather was forecast to rain for the next week, 100% chance of rain. And these dark storm clouds come rolling in off the coast where I lived in Northern California. Just the farm that I worked on, you could hear the waves crashing right on the ocean, on the Pacific Ocean, where the traditional jet stream traverses the transcontinent of the United States. When we were kids, the jet stream traditionally would come. It would start. It's like this mouth. It's called the mouth of the atmospheric river. It's literally a river that runs west to east, and it traditionally is as wide as San Francisco all the way up to British Columbia. As you know, and it's this wet season. It's this seasonal deluge that when the river starts flowing of moisture coming off the Pacific, it doesn't stop for a few months. Everybody knows that Seattle gets this rain season for a few months in the fall, spring, and it was a tradition. Even the 1,000-year-old redwood tree, these 1,000-year-old trees, they've gotten their traditional seasonal deluge. But all of a sudden, there's this drought being created, and it was. I mean, after I ended up doing my research, I learned that it was being caused by HARP systems creating high pressure fronts to block the jet stream from coming in and steering it and looping it around California. And also, what I witnessed was on the edge of this storm, this particular day, these planes showed up, a statistically significant uptick in air traffic. You know, I'm a statistics guy. I know what an uptick in air traffic is. You know, when you see sparse air traffic and you see a few planes in a day, and then all of a sudden there's 20 planes gridding the sky, and they happen to leave persistent linear cirrus cloud formations from the back, you start to think, well, how come there weren't persistent linear cloud formations before, and how come there's so many planes on the edge of the storm? And then the storm didn't drop any rain. So the drought continued, and I was out in my rain gear for no reason, and I started to think, what's going on? And when I realized that something was going on and that nobody knew about it at all, I pretty much devoted my life to it. You know, I figured somebody could make a much better film than I did with Frankenskies, and, you know, there's no looking back. You know, I've got the momentum, and here we go. So, yeah, thanks for having me on the show.
And I think, you know, as a farmer, okay, my uncle and aunt have about a 1,500-acre ranch in a community here in British Columbia, and they grow crops from corn to ginseng and everything. And, you know, the one thing farmers are very, very in tune with is the weather. So when you're farming, especially organics, you're going to know, Matt, the weather condition. The weather is important. Mother Nature is important as a farmer. And for a lot of people who are city folk, I would like it if you could explain how that Mother Nature and the weather comes into play for you growing crops.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's great that you mentioned that, because my first thought was, what a bad question. Shouldn't everybody know this? And then my second thought was, nobody knows this, right? Because I didn't even know this, and it's a great question. You know, it's so ridiculous that our modern education system has been so destroyed and twisted that we don't get out of school knowing, or at least I didn't get out of school knowing, and I went to one of the best public education systems in the country. I went to some pretty great, good universities, you know, and with a master's degree, I really honestly didn't know that a potato grew potatoes. You know, I just didn't know that. And that's pretty sad and pathetic for all of the time and energy spent with my nose in the book. So the growing cycle of a lot of crops, especially in Northern California, where you have a really long dry season and then a really long wet season, well, you're supposed to until the climate got completely hijacked by the weather engineers. You know, if you look into it and know that there's weather derivatives and that there can be money be made off of predicting the weather, then you can really sink your teeth into, you know, the greed and manipulation that can go behind the technology and that they already have. You know what I mean? With patents, you can see it all. And or if you watch my film, Frankenskies, you can totally see it all. But what was the question? I got my trailed off. I'm sorry.
Well, just
yes,
about the weather.
Growing cycle. Let me go. Yes, the growing cycle. Sorry. So the growing cycle of the crops in where I was working was dry farming, where the crops get their moisture from the air and they grow all season. So we grew winter squash and pumpkin, for instance. And these crops, what happens is they grow from seed in the spring, and they grow up all year, and then they produce their fruits finally in the fall, kind of thing. You plant them accordingly for how long their cycle is. But once pumpkins are ready and squash and what have you, there's this gentle or treacherous time frame in the traditionally, because this is traditional farming before the systems got hijacked. There's the seasonal rain coming, and you've got your crops becoming ready to be picked on the vine or what have you for the winter squash. You know, you've got vines all over the ground like pumpkins, and you got pumpkins growing. Well, guess what? If there's a storm coming early in the season, your crop can get devastated by mold and other things that come from like having a lot of rain. You know, it's primarily like mold and fungus and stuff like that, and root rot and all these things. And all of a sudden, your plants are dying and your crops are failing, and you've got to like harvest early and all these things happen. So it's like you're really in tune with watching the weather and all these things. And traditionally in Northern California, and I mean, we're talking San Francisco up through Vancouver. We're talking thousands of miles stretch of coastline that traditionally has this seasonal rain season. You know, it's a seasonal rain season, and it's been tampered with.
And you know what a lot of people don't understand, Matt, is from the northern part of California straight through Oregon, Washington State, and into British Columbia, it is a natural rainforest. Rain is supposed to happen. So when we hear about the natural rainforests that are being destroyed down in South America, here in North America, we do have our own. However, we're so used to the I-5 and driving straight down from Seattle to, or British Columbia, literally down to Tijuana, Mexico, that we don't even think about the forested areas and how lucky we are to actually have that, because a lot of this continent's air quality comes from that area between Northern California and British Columbia.
Yeah, this is true. It's a natural cycle, and if you haven't been to the vast redwoods, I mean, it's an amazing thing, and there's ancient trees. When you think about the concept of 1,000-year-old trees, it's a cycle. They rely on a certain cycle annually, and it's the way that all of the plants grow there, right? They like all of the farmers, you know, for centuries have relied on this certain system, and for it to get all of a sudden hijacked with a high pressure bubble caused by HARP technology heating the ionosphere over to the coast of California to create a high-pressure bubble so that the jet stream can't go into the transcontinental United States and it has to steer over California to create, catastrophic drought in California for the crops. Did you know that 98%, I believe, I think it's 98% of the world's almonds come from California? You know, there's like people can't sink their teeth into the vastness of the California breadbasket. It's an economy in and of itself, and if you start there and wreak havoc on a nation's food supply, that's where you start to get your order out of chaos. You know, it's just that people don't look at things as a bigger picture. You know, these guys behind the scenes, these evil, treasonous cowards behind the scenes, they are looking at it on a much longer scale, like a generation. They're thinking one generation from now we'll be able to have catastrophic, complete drought of all these. You know, they're going to tell it's a land grab and it's order out of chaos. It's complete evil, and it's really sad.
There's a lot of skeptical people out there, Matt, who tend to believe that these are contrails, not chemtrails coming out of aircraft, and we're going to get you to break that down here in just a little bit. But they believe that a lot of the problems are caused by overpopulation in areas and the pollution and the smog that comes not only from industry, but people driving their vehicles alike. What is the difference between smog and these chemtrails?
Smog is from industrial production, like smokestacks, and from car exhaust. You know, like when there's combustion and things are burned, such as coal or gasoline, you've got that pollutant that goes in the atmosphere and whatever. And then that's what supposedly is causing global warming, right? Because of a greenhouse effect, which when you create, when we'll get into this later, but the greenhouse effect is, you know, they're using ionospheric heaters to superheat the atmosphere. You know, the greenhouse effect is pretty much a thing of the past compared to the geoengineering that's going on. But as far as what's the difference is there's a huge difference. It's completely different. They're not even comparable. Okay, one is something that's been going on since the Industrial Revolution, and one has basically began a couple decades ago. But if you watch my film, you'll see that the setup for it to begin on such a mass scale, it started all the way back in the 30s. You know, like there's been such a historical chronology of it all that it makes it all really undeniable. Especially if you watch my film, Frankenskies, you'll see. So what chemtrails are versus just waste from production, from combustion, is they're aerosolized nano pollutants. So really to get into it, you know, people want to know the who, what, why, where, when, and how to really believe anything, you know, and we've got a couple hours, so we'll cover most of that, you know, and if you really want to know more, you can email me, frankenskies@gmail.com, you know, but the thing is it's all this interconnected, woven, evil network that is controlling this. It's like, that's one thing that's so daunting to people, that it's such a vast conspiracy that they can easily put up that mental block and say, my cognitive dissonance is going to get in the way of this for sure, because how could something so big be going on and me not know about it? For one, there's the ego. And then secondly, how could the budget even occur for that? And that's just so insane, you know, how could anyone believe it? But it is going on, you know, it is. And it was really hard for me to even jump that hurdle. I had to see it right in my face. And still, I wasn't like shocked and appalled. I was just like, there's something going on there. And I had to go forward, you know, and get exposed to it different ways and do my research. But what it is the Department of Energy, okay? It got really interesting for me when I started uncovering more documents. I dug further and networked with different people, sending me stuff and what have you. With 26,000 followers on Facebook that are pretty much all in the chemtrail, we all believe that geoengineering is ongoing. You know, we know that it's ongoing, and we spread that information far and wide. Like, people send stuff back and forth, and I've been the receiver of a lot of information and the giver as well. And one thing that came across my plate that I'm so excited to share with people on every show, but it's a little wordy, so you got to write this down, okay? There's the tropospheric aerosol program from the Department of Energy. So if you do your Google search, you can do tropospheric aerosol program, DOE.PDF. So it'll pull up the PDF for you, and then there you've got this incredible document that really outlines all of it. And it's this document from the Department of Energy, and it's because people want to know the who, what, why, where, when. Well, this is the who, this is like the what, this is like the why, this is like the where, this is the when, this is the how. It's all of it in this one document, but it's very wordy and complicated, and it really makes you see how smart these evil bastards are. Because what they did is they controlled the entire dialogue with it by controlling the narrative, by controlling the media. So when they've got the whole world clamoring over chemtrails, contrails, geoengineering, don't use the word chemtrails, you know, and this and that, that was like the little mental paradigm that they set up, the framework, you know, and the media is controlling the narrative. And I'll even later on tell you that the contrails no longer even exist, and that's still part of the program. When you see a plane flying in the sky with nothing, that's what's normal nowadays. The program has gotten so big that normalcy is few and far between compared to the onslaught of all these chemicals that we're getting. So what happened was, in this program, they outline it, and they don't use the word chemtrails, contrails, geoengineering, okay? So while we're clamoring over here, they released the tropospheric aerosol program through the Department of Energy, a bunch of coal and oil bitch bastards, okay? And I'm not cursing on the show, but I'm going to use that word and the replacement for all the words that I would want to use. You know
Not a
what I mean?
problem. Not a problem.
The Department of Energy, okay, I guess they saw solar as a problem. They don't want sunlight for the people, you know, and because, of course, solar power is going to outrun them because the technology was getting good, you know, and they're going to lose their grip on the industry of energy for the people of the world. So they came up with this agenda, this plan, which was in the works for a while, but it really got implemented in 2001. So this document came out in 2001, and we could do the entire show on this document. It would be so educational and like mind-blowing. But the thing is in there they detail everything. They detail the budget. They detail the entire program of launching the Chem Trail program. They even spray a grid pattern over the city of Nashville, Tennessee, a very big city in the United States in the southeast. Okay? They spray different chemicals, aerosolize. They put up their drones and their balloons, and the ground-based station monitor the plumes of aerosolized nanoparticulates, and they see how these chemicals interact, and they document the whole thing, and they tell the budget the next year and what they're going to do. They just don't use the word Chem Trails, geoengineering, or contrails. And it's a 99-page document. They talk about planes that are precursor gases. These precursor gas airplanes, they have to spray different things for them to mix in the sky to create their chemicals that we're getting sprayed with, to create their chemicals that stay in the sky for a while, and all this stuff that they can electrify with their EMF, ground-based ionospheric heaters, and zap these things. It's really high-tech, and it's totally so deep as it unfolds. But the thing is they have the complete ins and outs controlled. So they have, what happens is these coal-burning power plants, the coal-burning power plants have this soot from the filters of the smokestacks when they filter the coal that's burned. And they take, so there's like this, so if they didn't have the filters, the smoke would be coming out super black and the sky would be black, right? Because they're burning coal from the power plant. So they have these filters, and the soot from it, it gets washed out, and it's this sludge, and it's called coal fly ash, called coal ash, from burning it. And it's toxic because it's like, mercury and cadmium and all these nanoparticulate metallics and stuff that can't just be dumped on the ground or whatever. You got to dispose of this crap. You can't burn it again. What are you going to do? So you're supposed to put it in a bladder and bury it. They're supposed to do it like they're supposed to do it. But instead, they put it on a train and it goes straight to Air Force bases, right? And people have stood up at conferences I've hosted on numerous occasions and demanded that the planes that the trains that they know that are going from A to B, not A to Z, it's A to B. It's from the coal burning power plants right to the Air Force base where they can filter out the nanoparticulate metallics because all that dirty stuff is being sprayed. The nanoparticulate aluminum, the strontium, the barium, the cadmium, all that stuff, it's all in the burned coal. It's such a simple little program they got going on. And in their document that I encourage, if all the listeners, one person looks this up, then I'll be happy. If you look this up, Dave, I'll be happy. It's the Tropospheric Aerosol Program from the Department of Energy, PDF. And in the back of it, there's appendices on their budget, and part of their budget is $5 million on making sure, just that year, $5 million on making sure they don't get caught. That's part of their allocation of their budget, $5 million, making sure they don't get caught. And that's what we're up against in 2001. And guess what else happened in 2001 is a little distraction while we're not looking at the sky and we're afraid of, guess what, terrorism, because 9/11 happened in 2001. So, yeah. I can stop there, but yeah, that's an important thing for everyone to look at.
Now, in Periscope, we have a young lady named Aspen who is in here saying this is an old program, that coal ash is no longer in use. Okay,
well, the nanoparticulate metallics that they get in the aerosolize, they need to get them from somewhere. It's like maybe when we recycle our aluminum cans, they've hijacked that network of aluminum, and then they're refining it into nanoparticulate size, which would be very costly, and then they're spraying it. But really, it'd be a lot easier to do what I said and go with the documents that are out there that outline the budget and do it the way that eyewitnesses are standing up and saying that they see the network of the trains and follow the money and all this stuff. It's like there's a lot of research, and I've hosted various global conferences with all of the experts in the field and what have you. And this is the consensus that I've come to, and saying that that's old program. I don't buy that.
Matt, a lot of people will challenge you, and you get challenged every day, whether it's from other radio shows that you do or whether it's just everyday people on social media. How do you defend your case against people whom are just not understanding or believing that there is an actual problem going on in the skies?
Frankenskiesthemovie.com, actualactivists.com. I refer them to my assets, my websites that I've built and put my time and energy into, and especially Frankenskiesthemovie.com, or Frankenskies on YouTube, or Frankenskies on Vimeo, or all the articles that came out in various online publications and journals talking about Frankenskies. If you can sit down and watch the documentary and you can still say what you said, then there's no hope for you anyway. I'm just kidding.
No, I know you are, because I know your sense of humor. But there are a lot of people out there who will say, Matt, this is your opinion. It isn't scientific fact, because the science that we all can read right in front of us is saying something different.
And therein lies a very vast problem, and it's the complete hijacking of our media, our education system. There's been actually, as of a couple of years ago, I've noticed, but especially this year, especially 2018, there's been a hijack on discernment. Like there is an attack on discernment. People are no longer even trying to think for themselves. It's like people have been bombarded with these attacks by like this Operation Mockingbird kind of thing, where the CIA is putting out fake news and what have you. So I'll give you a broad example. When something happens in the media, the both sides of the argument are just completely hijacked with fake news. So people don't know really what to think. If you take a 20-year-old and you ask them what happened with 9/11, they could do research, and there's a million things saying every which way, up and down, and they say to you, I don't know, I can't make an opinion. There's a million things saying every other side. I wasn't there. How am I to know? And no matter what you say, they can find something that completely disproves it. That is applied to everything now. So Johnny says salt is bad, and then a study comes out saying salt is good, and then, but for instance, Coca-Cola has so many studies saying that like water is bad for you, and just all of this stuff, soda, hydrating, and like every industry, because science is bought, it's like, and the media is controlled by the CIA, and everything has been completely hijacked, that it's up to you to really look within and find your own discernment and look at the sky and like test your hair for aluminum and wonder where it's coming from. It's like, I don't know what to say to the complete naysayers, when you get that deep, because discernment's under attack. And if you can't think for yourself, then yeah, you got to try harder.
And I can see that, and I can honestly, see where you're going with it, but there is going to be that faction that wants proof. And everybody, the one thing that I have learned over the last 6 months is I've been asking this question in regards to everything. What is proof? And with everything, the only assumption that I can come up with, or the opinion that I can come up with, is everybody's proof is different. My proof is going to be different than yours, and vice versa, as well as our audience here, each and every one of them. So what proof is out there to show that these chemicals are actually being sprayed?
I'll give you one, and this is a great segue into the modern time that we are now living in, which is there's a primary solar geoengineer. He's like the front runner guy that's saying we should use geoengineering, which is the spraying of nanoparticulate, metallics, into the atmosphere, right? Okay, there's a guy by the name of David Keith, and he is a scientist, and he currently wants to do an experiment, and it's publicly being funded by Bill Gates with millions and millions of dollars, and federal funding was signed in by Obama and pushed forward by Trump as the Trump administration began federal funding for geoengineering. This is fact. As much as fact is what it is, but it is. So that's actually going on. So then once we start there, we can build this foundation of, okay, well, he's doing an experiment, and he's doing it publicly. He's doing it through a really high-tech balloon in Tucson, Arizona, this year. And his plan is to go up over Tucson with this balloon that can release a lot of aerosolized payload. It can actually hover for a few months doing it. But what is going on is this high-tech balloon and David Keith are going to go up and spray in front of the sun with the experimental nanoparticulate. The one idea is sulfur, because that's what happens when a volcanic eruption happens. A bunch of sulfuric nanoparticulate dust goes up into the atmosphere, and it blocks out sunlight. And that's exactly what they're trying to do, is block out sunlight. They want to, the scientists, led by solar geoengineer David W. Keith out of Calgary, for the Canadian listeners, I know you're in Canada, he wants to dim the sunlight by spraying nanoparticulate metallics or sulfur. He's going to experiment with aluminum, surprise, surprise. And if the aluminum or whatever works, and there's no talk about impacts to air quality, because they're saying that this is a necessary evil, and they're not taking into consideration the human right to the say in environmental decision-making. They're not taking into consideration the human right to a safe living environment. There's a lot of human rights violations, actually, that are not being taken into consideration, but these are all said to be okay because this small group called the Royal Society claims that they have exclusive rights to saving the planet through geoengineering. That's a publication, exclusive paper, peer-reviewed paper publication through Northwestern University, where they met in the first annual geoengineering roundtable last May, and they set up what they claim to be the solar geoengineering governance regime. It's a governance regime to govern geoengineering, self-proclaimed regime. They say, should we even take into consideration what the public's going to say or do? And they say that they have the exclusive rights to saving the planet. They have these high-tech geoengineering patents that they want to put to use. And they say that the patent law needs to be changed because their technology is so advanced. So we have a regime in place, a geoengineering regime. And we have a scientist in Tucson this year, 2018. He wants to go in front of the sun and spray different things to see what works best. And once they decide what works best, they're going to, their plan, their public plan, publicly told with the media, as fake as the media is what they're telling us is going on, and funding with hundreds of millions of dollars, they say that they need to shroud the atmosphere with whatever dust they decide works best to create a Mount Pinatubo effect to save us from global warming. Now, Mount Pinatubo is a volcano that erupted in 1991 in the Philippines. The science says that all of the sulfuric dust that went up in the atmosphere from this gigantic eruption, from all of the dust that went in the atmosphere, it blocked out a little percentage of the sun. And then the global mean temperature declined 1 degree Celsius. Well, if you know about the snow in Egypt today, or the catastrophic snowstorm that's about to hit the UK, I don't think you'd actually be wanting to lower the global mean temperature. I mean, where's public consent? I don't consent to lowering global mean temperature. My temperature is actually fine right here, right now, to be honest with you. And actually, I would think that a lot of people would say the exact same thing. So they want to mimic a volcanic eruption by spraying the sky with a whole bunch of balloon or aircraft or whatever, So they're doing it publicly, and they're pushing it through with a geoengineering governance regime. They're calling themselves a regime, and there's a solar geoengineer looking to spray your skies and says he wants to do it everywhere all the time after this experiment goes through. And the Trump administration says, oh, well, we have to because we can't cut emissions because that would slow down the economy and all this other stuff and the Paris Accords, and it's just a big stage to basically get full spectrum dominance of planet Earth. It'll literally be who gets sunlight, who doesn't, who gets rain, who doesn't, because once you start controlling the upper atmosphere, believe me, they're going to be controlling it even more than they already do. And last but not least, and this dives into my sequel of my film, I'm making a sequel to the film that I made, Frankenskies, and the sequel gets really deep into frequency. And once you start controlling what you're spraying everywhere all the time, and like if you look at the patents and you look at what's actually still going on, or if you don't want to go there, you can research and know that these technologies actually exist through DARPA. We've got ionospheric heater technologies and patents and all this stuff that frequency can be manipulated, especially if you're spraying conductive material. I bet you $1 million they're not going to pick sulfur to spray everywhere. They're going to say aluminum works the best and it's cheapest. So that's what I have to say to that question.
Well, going to David Keith, he is saying solar engineering isn't a substitute for cutting emissions, though, but could help reduce atmospheric carbon burden, which could help people. But on the flip side, wouldn't planting hemp or marijuana or more trees do that as well?
He's still playing this like Hegelian dialectic paradigm thing where like this master-slave dialectic of a problem. I don't see a problem. I don't think carbon is causing global warming because those two words already I have a big problem with. I don't think carbon's causing anything, and I don't think there's global warming. So there we're playing this game. But if you want to talk about that, yeah, plant a tree and hemp and all that, that's amazing. And also, if you want to talk about global warming and you're not talking about ionospheric heaters, that's heating of the atmosphere, that's heat, that's hot, that's warm, that's global, it's because they're everywhere. And it's warming, so we have to talk about that. That's the elephant in the room if we're going to talk about global warming at all. You know what I mean? Like the plants, they breathe carbon. We're carbon-based life forms. The carbon thing is all a big sham just because some politician made a movie. Think about it. And yeah, it's pretty funny how the masses can be controlled through the media. It's really, really daunting when it comes to trying to get a lot of people together. But there are small percentages of people that are awake, and that's what's happening. What I'm experiencing as I'm putting together this summit. Of course, because I've devoted my life to Chem Trails, right? I moved from British Columbia. I was on the Sunshine Coast, which is right outside of Vancouver. So I was coming from Vancouver, Canada, and I moved down to Arizona, to the desert, because of this experiment. And mind you, in Tucson, in the desert, David Keith will probably do it on a day that's 120 degrees Fahrenheit. You know what I mean? That's really, really hot, and it's the desert. So he'll spray the skies, and he'll say, look, I've lowered the temperature a couple degrees, and people will be like, oh, way to go, man. People don't know. People think science is, all out to get them, and they never think there's a nefarious agenda. Just look at, the ingredients in vaccines and people's response to, if you try to tell them that they're not okay. I don't want to muddy the waters or anything, but, on my page, I don't want to talk about too many subjects. People hate that for some, there's so much truth some people can handle. But my response to that is you can't really be half pregnant. Truth is a frequency, and if you start resonating with that frequency, all truths, every single last one of them become self-evident. On my page, actualactivists.com, which I will be turning into a social media platform this year to combat Fedbook from all of their BS and their censorship and their nonsense. If you don't know, Facebook has really been up to some no good in their censoring and their fakeness of their what have you. You know, they're really not for the people at all, and that's an understatement. But my page, Actual Activist, with an S at the end, actualactivists.com. It really, I'm doing a daily truth where I put up like a truth every single day of information that people should know, you know, different government programs in the past or what have you, or health things, you know, something to empower and inspire. And so I'm going to do that and then have a social interaction. I'll get that going on there and give people the opportunity to come together and learn some real truth about the world that we live in. But for now, it is already that, because it's broken down into vaccines, GMO, health, Chem Trails, and fluoride. And so let's talk about fluoride for just a second, and then I'll be happy to pass the mic over to you. So fluoride in this whole chemtrail, aluminum, even vaccines agenda, the fluoride gets really important in it. So it's really actually really important to empower yourself with at least a little bit of knowledge to take your health into your own hands, because we're really being bombarded with some toxins, and it's a slow kill. It really is. You know, and I hate to say it, and I'm not a depopulation agenda guy. I'm like, these people want to control everything, and it's pretty obvious, you know, and they're paying themselves a lot of black budget money to do it, you know. So the fluoride thing, it's really important for people to grasp some important stuff here. So we have a blood-brain barrier, which is the barrier that protects our brain, because we don't want bad stuff getting into our brain, right? Like if I ate some like bad GMO food with some glyphosate on it, I wouldn't want that glyphosate to just go straight to my brain. So I have a blood-brain barrier that protects my brain. Well, one thing to learn is actually lots of Wi-Fi, or Wi-Fi in general, breaks down. Like this 5G coming is actually really horrific. But EMF radiation, it does break down the blood-brain barrier, so that is an issue. But we're going to talk about fluoride for now. So fluoride in your drinking water, fluoride in your toothpaste, fluoride in some of your foods and your teas, your drinks, and all this stuff. Like think about where that kombucha was made. It's fluoridated. Unless it's reverse osmosis water, that fluoride is in there. And the fluoride, it's a neurotoxin. It goes straight to your brain. It has the ability to pass that blood-brain barrier. Well, aluminum does not. And when we're exposed to mass levels of aluminum through our flu shots that I hope you're not getting, or aluminum in your food, or aluminum in your deodorant, aluminum in your air, you know, we're breathing it in. Every time we see those lines in the sky, you better believe you're breathing in a little bit of aluminum. It's in your hair analysis. It's probably in your bloodstream if you get it tested. It's definitely in your rainwater. Imagine that. And it's definitely all over these geoengineering patents that have correlated with people witnessing these statistically significant upticks in persistent linear cirrus cloud formations over the So the rainwater came with aluminum. The soil is also coming with the aluminum. Rosalind Peterson, who just passed away, U.S. Department of Agriculture, there's a clip of her in my film Frankenskies, but she addresses the aluminum in the soil and in the air and how it's affecting the crop. You know, but if you have fluoride in your system, that's really bad. So you want to make sure you don't get the fluoride. Make sure if your tap water has it to avoid it. You know, because what happens is the fluoride, it escorts the aluminum to your brain. And actually, those two things together in your brain have a chemical reaction and lead to dementia and Alzheimer's and all these things. But you don't want aluminum in your brain. You don't even want fluoride in your brain, but you definitely don't want both of them together. And if you're being exposed to aluminum, which you likely are, I'm sorry to say, then you don't want fluoride. You know, you want to detox the aluminum. You want to chelate, and we can get into that later. You know, it's all about empowering and inspiring yourself. This isn't a negative thing. You know, it's all about resonating with the truth and like becoming better people and all that stuff.
Matt, what doesn't make a lot of sense right now for even myself, and I'm not saying this to be snarky, but these people who have this geoengineering going on, if there is something to it where they are poisoning the atmosphere, they're poisoning themselves as well, and their families and their lineage. Where does that make sense? This is what I struggle, and I know some of our listeners struggle with this big question as well, that these people would be, committing self-suicide, not only on them, but their future generations and bloodlines as well.
Dave, I'd lie if I said that I hadn't heard that question 1,000 times. It's very like people like, and I don't want to generalize like you or your question, but it's very interesting how people ask the same things because they want to break it down, and our mental constructs are very similar. And it's like, we're like, well, wait, what about this? And I thought about that a lot too. And the answer to that is, it's all about knowing what you're actually being sprayed with. If you know what it is, you can easily. The human body is so complex and amazing. If you empower your immune system and chelate with the right things, you can literally heal yourself of anything. So you better believe that the people that are spraying us with radioactive cadmium, they know exactly how to detox from that. There's probably even high-tech nanobot technologies that they can pass on to their friends and family that eradicate these things through chelation and what have you. But, I mean, even if you're a health practitioner, you know how to get it out of your body. So it's not really that, it's just the attack on truth and a lot of people not knowing about it, yeah, that's my answer to that one, really. No, well, also, they know what's being sprayed where and when. So if they don't want to be sprayed, they won't be where it's being sprayed at that time. And also there's really complicated like HEPA air filters and what have you that these rich globalists have in their homes that we don't even own.
Yeah, I can understand where you're getting with that, but in the end, I mean, it is, even though you've been asked that question 1,000 times, it is a logical question, though, Matt, and I realize that we have to try and bring it down, and I realize you're not going to have the absolute definitive answer on everything, because in the end, that really doesn't make sense to you either, if I'm reading that question correctly.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, it's like, yeah, why would you spray your family with all of this? I mean, and the people that are complacent and compliant and working in the system, I've lost many, or not lost, but I've grayed many a hair over thinking these things through and through. And I think that I've narrowed it down to three phrases. It's, let me see if I can remember. It's compartmentalization, it's indoctrination, and it's need-to-know basis. And I believe it's in that order. Let me think again. It's indoctrination, compartmentalization, need-to-know basis. And so that's how they get away with convincing these people who are actually committing treason. It's treason. I don't know how you want to slice it, but it's complete treason against your friends and family. It's that they want to tell you that there's a lot of mind control going on nowadays, especially. But I think that they're told that they're saving the planet by saving, the whole global warming thing. That the sun needs to be slowed down from heating us and what have you. But yeah, it's basically like they want to bring the ship down, and then it gets deeper, and I'm sure you've had shows about it. Then people say, well, if they're trying to totally bring the ship down and cause an ice age, it must be terraforming, and they must not even be, a human or what have you. I've heard that argument. And it's like, if they put us into a freaking ice age and we're all about to die in a few years, I will be curious. I will be questioning what the heck their plan is. But you thought there's like bunkers like millionaire bunkers underground. These globalists, if you really look into it, and if it really is a depopulation agenda, maybe they really just want to completely destroy the planet and then reemerge from their little, I was going to say rabbit hole, but rabbits are cute. What are they, weasels or lizards, from their little lizard hole, and come out and then have a new world without all of us nice people around. But yeah, I can't really, I'm not a total sociopath, psychopath, treasonous coward. I can't really get into those shoes and figure out every last detail. But what I do know is there is something really messed up going on, and it needs to be stopped, and there definitely needs to be scrutiny and transparency ongoing.
We only have about 10 seconds here before we got to go to break, so I'm going to get you to hold on here for just a couple of moments here as Matt Landman is our guest tonight. We are talking Chem Trails tonight. We're going to go one more hour and see how it goes, maybe for an hour number 3 as well, because we're just going to play this one by ear. We love it when Matt comes on and breaks things down for us in the chemtrail realm. He comes on probably once every 6 to 7 months, and we love having him here. His website, if you want to check it out, is actualactivists.com. actualactivists.com. I highly suggest you check it out. We're going to step away for our first break. More talk on chemtrails right after this on Spaced Out Radio.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new, with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Lori and Fenton here, SOR listeners. Join me at UFOCon 2018 in South San Francisco, California, March 23rd through 25th, where 14 presenters discuss all things disclosure, UFOs, and aliens. Stephen Bassett, Grant Cameron, and Melinda Leslie address disclosure. Preston Dennett will present Inside UFOs. Your Dave Scott and Lynn Buchanan tell of amazing alien contact. Get tickets at caufocon.com.
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social Media Freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel. The freedom to know Big Brother isn't watching. It's the way social media is supposed to be. Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free. Download from your app store today.
Coming September 28th to the 30th, it's our first annual Caribou Paracon, put on by Spaced Out Radio and the Canadian Society of Questers. 3 days of paranormal, supernatural, and spiritual knowledge in the beautiful 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Tickets are $150 Canadian for the event, being held at the Spruce Hills Resort and Spa. Come watch our featured speaker, Grant Cameron, along with Lori and Fenton, David Weatherly, Ross Allison, and more. The Caribou Paracon, celebrating everything paranormal.
Hey Space Travelers, it's Joe Roop, your host of Spaced Out Saturdays. Come join me as we explore the realms of the paranormal, the esoteric, and everything in between every Saturday night at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. You know the truth is out there. Don't get caught sleepwalking. Come join Spaced Out Saturdays. That's every Saturday night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, right here on SpacedOutRadio.com.
Psychic Sundays, spiritual communication, ET contact, Sasquatch in your backyard. We will have it all on Cosmic Passport with me, Elizabeth Anglin. Each Sunday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, at SpacedOutRadio.com, I will take you on a journey of enlightenment. The goal is learning from the soul on out. We'd love it if you joined our experience, Cosmic Passport, heard Sundays at SpacedOutRadio.com.
365 days a year, we're in the field, investigating UFO sightings, talking to alien abductees, and visiting secret military locations like Area 51. We're UFO Seekers, official partner of Spaced Out Radio. Follow our daily search for the truth at ufoseekers.com or like us on social media. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
From coast to coast to coast, Blacklight Uncharted is taking on the paranormal across Canada. From ghostly hauntings to the UFOs flying above in conjunction with MUFON Canada, we're closely investigating what's going on in the northern skies and checking out the apparitions that walk among us. Check out our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com. We want to know your thoughts, we want to hear your experiences, and we want you to share your stories. The answers are out there, and we intend to find them.
It's paranormal news at its finest. Welcome to The Encounter. At spacedoutradio.com, The Encounter online is SOR's trusted news source for everything weird and strange going on around the world. This is news editor Eric Markham. Our team of journalists are scouring the planet for those strange stories that rarely make the mainstream. No fear-mongering or fake news here. Head over to spacedoutradio.com and encounter The Encounter.
Want to learn more about aliens, cover-ups, conspiracies, cryptids, and the paranormal? All you have to do is tune in S4 as we take over the Spaced Out Radio night, starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, each and every Saturday night, right after Spaced Out Saturdays. Hi there, this is Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. Join me, Corey Ruiz, and friends as we discuss the hot topics of the night. It's fun, entertaining, and as dark as the night. Find us at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Do you want to know what's really going on in your world? Do you have questions about who you can trust in the mainstream media? Then look no further than the Rebel Planet. Come get the straight answers right here at spacedoutradio.com. Join me, Jamie Sexton, creator of Rebel Planet News, as I fill you in on the stories behind the stories. All you truth seekers, be sure to tune in to Rebel Planet on spacedoutradio.com the third Thursday of every month.
Hey, this is Canadian paranormal investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. And hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag SpacedOutRadio. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to the second hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Great to have you with us. Tomorrow night on the program, author Bobby Richardson is going to join us from Australia. We are going to be talking about humanity through extraterrestrial contact. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. We want to welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. We are live as well on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. We are also live on The Fringe FM, and if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to revolution.radio and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Velocipedastrianism. What the hell is this, Bill? Velocipedestrianism? I don't even know. Thanks, Bill. Appreciate that. Bill sets a password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Damn you, Bill. Damn it, Bill. You got me with a nice hard Cardwell there. I'm not impressed. Anyways, we're all over social media. We are on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio if you want to connect live with me during the show as well. We are live on Periscope.tv. Yes, you can watch me screw up the password live every single night. Appreciate that. We are also on Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. You can go on our Facebook page, give us a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. Our YouTube channel is Spaced Out Radio. So you go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio to connect live with our archives. We are on iHeartRadio in the United States, TalkStream Live. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download and subscribe to our shows on iTunes. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club for $5 a month. Rock out to some Bumblefoot. Read up on the encounter online. Shop at the Spaced Out Radio store, or you can also watch great videos from UFO Seekers, Contact TV, and so much more. Matt Landman is back for hour number 2. We are talking Chem Trails tonight. His website is actualactivists.com. He also has a great documentary called Frankenskies, if you want to check it out. Matt, welcome back.
Thanks so much for having me. It's such a pleasure.
Anytime, my friend. Anytime. You can hop on here. You know how it goes. We're all good friends here. We're all good friends. Anyhow, let's move on. In the first hour, we started getting into what chemtrails were all about and the spraying system. Who do you think is doing this?
Well, the who is very clear. Well, like we talked in the first hour about David Keith and how his experiment to block out the sun with aerosolized chemicals from balloons and jets and what have you. So you can point your finger at David Keith as the boogeyman, but if you want to follow the money, which you should, it goes to Bill Gates. Bill Gates funds David Keith's operation, and both Bill Gates and David Keith are part of this they're part of this Royal Society, and the Royal Society is the patent pool that is getting paid for all of these ongoing operations. Along with that, oh wow, did you say who? It's so deep and involved. Well, NASA is totally liars, in case you don't know. NASA was formed after World War II. Would you believe after World War II, there was a thing called Operation Paperclip, where thousands of Nazi war criminals were escorted over to the United States to form branches of the United States military? I've oftentimes wondered if we even actually won that war. When you learn about history being written by the winner of the wars, and it's literally called his story because of that play on words, because you rewrite history and you control what people think. And these Nazis came over, that's not in the history books. Thousands of war criminals came over. They created the CIA's mind control program. They created NASA. They brought to the system fluoridation, and we started fluoridating the people with a excitotoxin, neurotoxin. It's harmful, fluoride, and all of a sudden these associates of Hitler who were fluoridating their water supply, they come over here and start doing it over here. It makes you wonder what happened. So NASA has a budget of $52 million per day, okay? And they have a program called CARE, C-A-R-E, which is the Charged Aerosol Release Experiment, where they, quote, use the atmosphere as a laboratory. This is out of a NASA presentation. Use the atmosphere as a laboratory. That's literally fact. You can look it up. And the thing is they publicly have a fleet of planes. I'm sure they have a lot more than they say. And they publicly have geoengineering-related patents. They don't call it geoengineering. They call it the Charged Aerosol Release Experiment. But what they do is they spray the skies with aerosolized nanoparticulate metallics. They mix them together in the sky. Like one drone will spray one thing, one drone will spray another thing, and mix these aerosolized plumes, right? They'll monitor them. This is public, they'll monitor them, and then they will create what they call ionized clouds, right? Where, noctilucent clouds is one of the names they've termed, but they're ionized clouds as well. Noctilucent clouds. NASA creates noctilucent clouds. It's a new cloud category. Haven't you heard that they've actually introduced 12 new clouds to the Cloud Atlas for the first time in 50 years? That's a nice little news segment that I found horrific and hilarious, that the new clouds, if you look at each one, it's aerosolized metallics from jets. It's completely chemtrails. All of these new clouds that they've come up with and updated and brainwashed people and put them on stamps and all this stuff, it's all chemtrails. Every last one, in one version or another. If it's HAARP-induced, ionospheric heater-induced ripple waves, like frequency ripples, they have a name for that, but that's still aerosolized metallics, and then there's zaps with frequency, it's really scary. So the WHO is NASA. NASA makes fake clouds and sprays aluminum, barium, and strontium over our cities, and publicly tells us that they're using the atmosphere over our heads as a laboratory. So the WHO is NASA for sure. But also, as we discussed in the previous hour, the Department of Energy. I encourage people to look up the Tropospheric Aerosol Program Department of Energy.pdf, where in 2001, the Tropospheric Aerosol Program was created by the Department of Energy. Also, the WHO is this group of globalists that includes Warren Buffett. It includes Bill Gates. It's probably the Rothschild banks and these really evil scumbags that run the entire planet. And it's also the military-industrial complex, and they've even got some private airlines involved in it, that they outfit with sprayers and do it from remote. But not all the airlines are involved, but definitely some. Definitely some have been caught spraying. I mean, I can't say that not all are involved, but I'd like to hope.
Where are these aircraft that are supposedly spraying this stationed? Are they on military bases? Are they at regular international airports like in Vancouver or LA or New York?
I would say that the commercial jets that are outfitted, they're obviously coming in and out, and they've got, some sprayers. But I think that those are more just to, like, fill in the gaps. So they primarily, it's the U.S. Air Force. And wherever you live, if there's an Air Force nearby, you can see the trajectory of the planes, and also drones, and even barium-release rockets. And when I say rockets, I use the word loosely. They're from the ground, and they're shot straight up in the air like a rocket, but they look like a drone, essentially, from our perspective. But they have these rockets that release plumes of barium, patented in 1974, barium-release rockets. And these are from Air Force bases. But there's what they call in the documents that I refer to, the Tropospheric Aerosol Program, Department of Energy, they have these stations called supercells, where there's stations built all over the United States to monitor and have operations. When you have something such a vast network, they have different facilities that are just reloading these drones and putting them back in the air. So you ask where they are, they're all over the place. There's a lot. If you want to get specific, like for instance, where I live in Sedona, there's one to the north where the Air Force base is, and then there's one to the south. They just go right back and forth on days that they spray a lot. And south would be Cottonwood area, so on the on the outskirts of Cottonwood. There's 2 spots, and usually they just get it dialed in to where they're going back and forth from A to B over certain regions. So the flight path. I mean, realistically, like in the whole scheme of things, you shouldn't have planes zigzagging over your house ever, unless you live right by an airport. The air traffic has not gone up that much that every person on Earth has planes just zigzagging on random days, but not on other days. You know?
Is this just military craft that are doing this, or is it civilian craft as well?
Yeah, I would say that it's a bit of both. Definitely more military than not, but the industry has, but the airlines, they've got sprayers. Some of them have been caught with sprayers. I think that they're not all involved necessarily.
Question from Trip coming in from the chat room. He is asking, with all the Chem Trails, have you been able to collect any physical evidence of these chemicals?
Physical evidence would be rainwater analysis, and then you can cross-reference that with hair analysis, and then you can cross-reference that with the patents, the patents that have the exact same chemicals in it. Aside from that, I have not gone up in a jet with air sampling. I have not gone up in a hot air balloon on a day of heavy spraying. You've gotten an air sample. There's been numerous studies of, for instance, at the conference that I hosted last year. So I host conferences to bring people together so that these questions can be asked. And the one of the keynote speakers last year was a researcher by the name of Alan Buckman. Alan Buckman came to the second Global Chem Trails Summit to give his presentation. He was a former U.S. Air Force weatherman, and he's also a U.S. Department of Agriculture scientist. And his main focus was the correlation between visually, there was, in the late 90s, visually people started seeing a statistically significant, people started seeing lines in the sky, whereas they didn't exist before, for one. And the thing is this correlated with a document where the U.S. Air Force said that they wanted to own the weather by 2025. So 1996 document was released by the Air Force. And then you have in 2001 that Tropospheric Aerosol Program by the Department of Energy, like I said. So the U.S. Air Force took it to the private sector through the Department of Energy. And what you see here is also, okay, here's one. The rainwater and the footprint in the rainwater is often identical to the footprint of coal fly ash being burned, right? But then you can, that's not exactly proof either, but it's a tough question. Yeah, I've gotten that one a bunch too. What do you want? I could hijack a plane and then land it and then test the aerosols that are built into that. Aside from that, and which I'm not going to do, aside from that, testing the rainwater is basically the best physical evidence that we can really, in answer to your question on the chat, that's the best physical evidence, because if you live in a rural area, for instance, okay, and he's asking if I've got physical evidence. Yes, I do. And a lot of people do. A lot of people do. If you live in a rural area and you get normal cumulonimbus, you get a rainstorm come in and you test that rain and it doesn't have any cadmium, terbium, mercury, aluminum, barium, strontium in it, and it tests free of these chemicals, because as time progresses, we have to take science into our own hands. It's really unfortunate, but that's what's going on. And science comes from what? Observation, testing hypotheses, all of that good stuff. So then once you've tested your rainwater, when a normal storm pattern comes through, which you've identified, which you've seen throughout your entire life, which is normal, you know, those fluffy clouds, well then on a day of persistent linear cirrus clouds that just happen to be coming out of the back of the jet, when you get rain on one of those days, especially like a good day where there's a grid pattern up the sky and you get rain, because sometimes they're feeding it and they use different chemicals to even feed it, so you're really going to get it, those chemicals nice. You can test that rainwater, cross-reference it to the other rain, and take some notes, do your science, and voila, like over time, you just can't deny the facts. The EPA, you know, they're not doing their job. They had a hearing on jet emissions, and we had activists there. Patrick Roddy, he's one of the speakers at the different conferences that I'm hosting. He went and spoke to them and testified about how they weren't doing their jobs and that all these things are coming up in the air and the rain and the soil and what's going on and why are they not even, they've stopped measuring for aluminum, and I guess the EPA is not even, that's the agency that we have, obviously, you know, that to regulate things, health and safety in the environment. But the thing is this, like I said, sorry I trailed off, but this doctor, this researcher, ex-U.S. Air Force weatherman, Alan Buckman, he spoke at my conference, okay? And he's very well qualified, and he studied through the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Northern California. He studied lichen. And the lichen, they tell this amazing story. And for those of you that don't know, lichen are these like moss-like, quite beautiful microorganisms that grow on rocks, basically, in the wilderness kind of thing. And these lichen, like I said, they're pretty much like moss. They breathe air, and they get their nutrients through the air. They basically eat air, okay? And that's how they function. Kind of like how a oyster filters water, and that's how they function. That's what a lichen does to air. And lichen all of a sudden started having extremely high levels of aluminum in them. Also aluminum, barium, and strontium. Okay? That just happened to randomly start happening when NASA started making their fake clouds with aluminum, barium, and strontium. So if you look at these chemicals that these different entities, such as NASA, are publicly saying that they're spraying in the skies, and then it's showing up at ground level, the exact same chemicals in the air, in the lichen, but it wasn't there in 1990, but now it is, and it's been going up as people see the spraying has been going up. It's kind of hard to deny, but like I said, you have to take logic and reasoning and discernment and science into your own hands nowadays, because who are you going to trust?
No, and I understand that's the million-dollar question. Who can you trust? But there's always so many strong arguments from both sides of the equation that it's difficult for anybody to believe. But we do know there is, misting clouds on very clear days that spread out, and we don't know why. Could it be any sort of condensation coming off of these high-tech aircraft?
Well, yeah, you said it right, high-tech aircraft. If you are able to do the research, or I can tell you because I've done the research, there are these engines nowadays. They're called high bypass turbofan jet engines. And it is the Rolls-Royce technology that the modern-day aircraft have. All of them. And the engine, these high bypass turbofan jet engines, they cool the air. It's not efficient to burn. This is fact. It's not efficient to have a hot engine and burn jet fuel all hot and spew out hot air. That's not happening. That's literally not happening. Okay, it was a thing of the past when the contrail actually existed. Contrail no longer exists. You're seeing additives, or you're seeing actual precursor gases that are more invisible, like barium. More than likely, when you see what you think is a contrail, it's a chemical being sprayed. It's just not the obvious aluminum that's like bellowing out into a milky white haze. They're using your atmosphere as a laboratory and mixing different things up there. And the contrail story is even a con in and of itself. But I know that's gonna spark a little bit of, I don't want to push too many buttons. So yeah, did I answer the question?
Well, just in regards to the aircraft spraying them, because, these aircraft are more high-tech than what they were 20, 25 years ago, especially the Airbus fleet, and they have been trying to cut down on emissions, yet ever since they've been trying to cut down on emissions, we seem to see more of these chemtrails or contrails in them, and we're trying to figure out what that is.
Yeah, it's a fleet of drones controlling your weather and pushing solar radiation management, stratospheric aerosol injections, global agenda to control the outcome of humanity. It's basically the most important thing facing everyone on Earth, especially the next generation. And the elephant in the room is everyone silenced about it because they can't make up their minds on whether or not they think it's going on. The fact of the matter is that there is a regime that's been put in place. Basically, the debate, the time for conjecture on the issue, it's pretty much past. We're beyond conjecture. This is a new era we're stepping into, where a global elite group of rich patent holders, they claim exclusive rights to geoengineering the planet by spraying everywhere all the time with nanoparticulate metals from balloons and jets to save us from global warming. Now, a greenhouse effect would most definitely occur from spraying the entire planet with just about anything, okay? And global warming will be exacerbated or actually probably created, global warming will actually be created by their action, and then they will tell the world that they must do it more to slow down the warming that they have created. It's a complete nefarious and evil agenda to control the outcome of humanity. And really, they think that we consent to it by not speaking up and saying no.
These chemicals that are being sprayed, there's a lot of people who are wondering whether or not it is causing health problems, whether it's respiratory, whether it's Morgellons. Have we been able to connect any type of true scientific study that these chemicals that are coming down, or the components, are causing some sort of health issue?
There's a research study out of Pakistan that correlates the aerosols and the contaminants to rising rates of dementia, Alzheimer's, and what have you. Like we discussed earlier about scientific studies, there's always going to be something saying that none of that is fact. There is the primary debunker guy by the name of Nick West. He's a computer programmer that has a website called metabunk.com. Okay? On Metabunk, this guy, his website is he debunks everything. Like, if you say the sky is blue, he's got an argument telling you it's not. There's one that I think is just hilarious. There's a bicycle that generates electricity, and he debunks it. And he says, no, it doesn't. It doesn't. And it's like, if you can't discern between that, I mean, of course he says that the 9/11 was not a inside job, and of course he says vaccines are good for you, and fluoride is good for you, and chemtrails are not real. So this guy, he hosted and authored a scientific research study, and these other solar geoengineers, one of them, Kim Caldera, who's just as evil as David Keith. I don't give him as much attention as he deserves. These agenda pushers, like, they basically have a couple of these, they're called civil society actors. They got these actors that they're paid big bucks to push these agendas, but they're basically heartless and greedy, and maybe mind controlled. I'd like to hope they're mind controlled. I hope it's not just the dollar bills that are influencing these war. These are acts of treason. These are acts of crimes against humanity. And the thing about the experiment that's being launched in Tucson, Arizona, to release and normalize geoengineering as something that we need, the fact of the matter is they're trying to sidestep decades of literal crimes against humanity, crimes against planet Earth, where literally the bees are dying from colony collapse disorder. The bees are getting dementia. The bees are being affected by the aluminum way more than anybody can fathom. Also, the dementia rate. Dementia is now the leading cause of death in the UK. This is staggering. It's gone through the roof. Dementia is caused by the aluminum in your brain. But you better bet that there's not going to be government research or funding supporting these notions. So that's where the ultimate health impacts need to be discerned by yourself. And if you want to take the risk and roll the dice and say that nothing's going on in your skies, you have the truth is up to you. It's kind of like you can lead a horse to water. There's this quote about truth that I like to embody. You can take truth as the authority, or you can take authority as the truth. And really what it means is it's up to you. You have the truth within you. You don't have to just take the media and the Mick West Metabunk guy. What he did with this study that he came out with is he said that, it's so deep and shrouded with confusion. There was a scientific study done by this Nick West debunker guy, and he said that 400 scientists were surveyed. Out of those 400, 87 scientists responded. Out of those respondents, 78. 78 respondents, and 77 out of 78 said that chemtrails are not real, right? And it was really deep and involved. And then the media continues to reference the scientific study from the University of California, Irvine, but it's completely bogus. It's completely bogus. So if you want to talk about scientific studies, let's look at the studies that they've come out with saying chemtrails are real. And once you can wrap your head around how completely bogus they are, then we can start talking about the truth and compare them.
Did any university or scientific laboratory take up the cause to do these tests for you?
No, there's not going to be any universities jumping on this bandwagon quite yet. But what I have noticed is that almost every university has a geoengineering program. The thing about it is it's not the military-industrial complex. It was the military-industrial complex. Now it's a revolving door and between every sector of our existence. Healthcare is merged with environmentalist issues, is merged with the education system, is merged with everything. There's geoengineering students learning how to spray the skies with aluminum, not realizing it's going on, not realizing that they're being a pawn in this intricate cycle of complete greed and manipulation and indoctrination and normalization and programming. So people coming out of the system, they don't even know that they've been programmed to think that geoengineering is a good thing. People get degrees in things that literally are part of this vast agenda, but it's just being played out and people can't see the forest through the trees.
Question coming in from Michael in the SOR Space Travelers group. He is asking, has the name of the chemical project or the Chem Trail project ever been discovered by anyone?
The Chem Trail, there has been various. If you want to know what the program was titled in Vietnam, it was Operation Popeye, where the weather was weaponized to make the monsoon season longer and exacerbate and flood the Ho Chi Minh Trail in Vietnam. That was when weather was first weaponized and global treaties had to be signed because the entire world was worried about the U.S. weaponizing the weather. Weather as a war weapon was made illegal through international treaties after Vietnam. That was Project Popeye. The tropospheric aerosol program through the Department of Energy, that is basically a vast aspect of the program, if not all of it. So there's a title for you. The Charged Aerosol Release Experiment through NASA, CARE, there it is. They've named it a lot. That's the one thing about the program is the verbiage is enough to confuse just about anybody. The CIA director refers to it as stratospheric aerosol injection. There's also a solar radiation management program where they plan to completely block, not completely block, but completely dim the sun through the solar geoengineering governance regime that has been established through Warren Buffett and a small group of globalists.
Is the purpose for all of this to dehumanize the planet? Is it to bring the age limit down so, Social Security or it isn't lasting as long for a number of people?
I would say the dehumanizing aspect that you just touched upon is ultimately the agenda. It gets really interesting. If you get really deep down these rabbit holes or an onion, I refer to it, you peel back layers of onion and it just keeps getting deeper and deeper. So we can talk about weather modification. We could talk about radioactive cadmium being sprayed over the city of St. Louis to see how many people die from it. That actually was a U.S. Air Force program. Radioactive cadmium sprayed over the city of St. Louis. to see how many people died from it. That is a segment in the film, my film, Frankenskies. There's a lot of different treasonous kind of things that the U.S. Air Force has done that is quite questionable. But the future of humanity really does seem to be at risk. And when I'm done with this next film, I've barely just released Frankenskies, and I'm really focusing on the summit May 12th in Tucson. That's one of the most important events as far as I'm concerned. This upcoming event will alter the course of humanity and bring some truth into a really dark world that's trying to be pushed with the dimming of our skies and the introduction of AI and artificial humanity with synthetic biology and all of these other things. You asked about Morgellons earlier. I didn't touch upon it, but I will. The sequel, once I'm done with the sequel film for my film, I'll be a totally different person. And I'm already shifting into this realm of some really weird stuff, Dave. It's really something else, and I'm really excited about the interviews that I've got lined up for the sequel. So the event in Tucson, it's a turning point for the timeline of humanity. Really, it is. On May 12th, I'm having an event to bring awareness to the flip side of it, to the truth, to the ongoing spraying that we've been witnessing and what really picking it up like they want to do and launching it globally, full-scale deployment. They call it full-scale deployment. They call what they've been doing research, field research. They call what they want to do full-scale deployment everywhere, all the time. It's really a gruesome thought. And so you can visit my website, stopgeoengineeringtucson.com. Tucson is spelled Tucson. Stopgeoengineeringtucson.com features the event. It also has a link to my crowdfund where I'm getting some money together to help with the expenses. We've got the most amazing speakers from all over the world. I'm flying in Terry Lawson from Ireland. He's a researcher, one of the best in the realm, and he has a website, climatechangeagenda.com. Ilana Freeland, she wrote the book on Chem Trails, the HAARP, and the full spectrum dominance of planet Earth. She has a new book, Under an Ionized Sky. It just came out last week, got an amazing review first thing. She's going to be there speaking as one of the keynote speakers, as will I be, as will a nurse be that has seen the human health impacts from the spraying. Okay, so that's happening May 12th, and we're going to do a protest. We're going to tell the world that we do not consent to solar geoengineering. We're going to tell the world that we demand unbiased media coverage. And this will go on, and then when he has his experiment, goes up in the sky and sprays the skies, we'll be there representing humanity. And we will tell the world that we do not consent to this shit, and we will not stand for it, and that we need to be heard, because we're not being heard. The manipulated media is not telling our side of the argument. They're controlling the narrative. They're controlling all of it, and they're telling us that once they start, they won't be able to stop. That's the headline. Once we start, we won't be able to stop because it'll impact the world or whatever, the weather, the systems and everything like that. That's the headline that they've pushed across dozens of their controlled news outlets. Once we start, we can't stop. Well, guess what? They've already started, and they're about to tell you that they're going to do it publicly, and they're going to do it everywhere all the time. So that's super important. But let's get into this dystopian future where, if you haven't heard, in Saudi Arabia, there is now a robot by the name of Sophia, and Sophia was granted citizenship. Okay? So we've got robots getting citizenship. We've got a robot city being built over in that same region in the Middle East. And we've got an AI agenda where Elon Musk who I do not trust one bit, Elon Musk, he claimed that in 2 years, his new company, Neuralink, will be launching, and he will be starting to connect people. He wants to have, like, literally connect people. He wants to have this Neuralink infrastructure built into cars where this literal wire connects to your jugular, and you have this mesh in your brain that connects your thoughts to driving your car to this internet of different cloud-based technologies where you can access everyone else's information and memories, and basically you become part of this hive mind. This is what Elon Musk wants to push in 2 years. So if you really start researching the Morgellons and the synthetic biology that people are being affected with, and you see this AI agenda springing up and the chipping of humanity and the frequency control, you start to see a very elaborate and haunting connection to geoengineering. Because as the frequency starts to become completely controlled through microwave and intensive 5G radiation from everybody's phone, the new technology 5G phones will all be emitting cell tower radiation. Like, these new towers are going to be everywhere, not just even the phone, but at every street corner. This 5G technology wants to scope the entire planet, where it's becoming micronized and even aerosolized, and it's documented. They want to make the entire world a network of microwave frequencies. Okay, these frequencies, they interact at the same frequency that we do. Our hearts have a frequency. Our brains have a frequency. All of our organs in our brains and our hearts together harmonize. We have a resonant frequency. And if that is disrupted, which it will be by these new frequency microwave technologies that are being deployed, and it's about the frequency size. It's these microwaves that actually will affect us. Okay, people think, oh, well, my phone doesn't hurt me now. Well, it's gonna, and it's going to actually hurt humanity in a way that we will not see immediately. Cancer rates will spike. Yes, kids are going to get leukemia. Yes, you're going to get tumors. No big deal. But it is a big deal. But one of the things that is most impactful, which I'm going to be talking about in the film, is, and this is a depopulation agenda, yeah, it is, but it's also an AI push, because the next generation of children won't be able to have children. Microwave technology affects fetuses. It hurts the baby's ability to develop eggs. So women will not be able to bear children that grow up in this new frequency 5G environment. And these women who can't have kids and this new generation that can't have babies, the media, you better bet they're going to push this AI agenda. They're going to say, live forever to save humanity. I've seen this headline flash in my head, and I do not like it. I do not consent to this agenda or this timeline hijacking by these really evil, whoever it may be. But what it is it's a push towards artificial intelligence. It's a push towards cyborg dehumaning of humanity. So, yeah, you're right. It's a dehumaning of humanity, and I want to start a campaign that's human for life, and I want this human for life campaign to not just be my generation. I want humanity and the pureness that we have to actually remain intact, because these agenda pushers, they're really dark. And what Elon Musk wants to push is this trip to Mars and the colony on Mars, and he's going to have people competing for the first people that are going to go to Mars. There's going to be a reality show. You better believe it. There's going to be a reality show, and Elon Musk is going to be deciding who gets to go to Mars, and it's going to be the people who have upgraded lungs, cyborgs, this and that, can live longer, and and do what have you on Mars and have these implants in their brain. And guess what? They're not even going to go to Mars. They're not going to leave Earth. They're just going to get an implant in their brain, and the mass consciousness of humanity is going to be hijacked by some really weird, dark stuff. It's really weird and it's really dark. And my interview coming up for my sequel film with Clifford Carnicom, the head researcher on Morgellons, I definitely feel like that this interview is going to shift my focus and my reality to a very interesting new perspective. The more that I look into this stuff and the people being affected by what they claim is become aerosolized, people are claiming that this Morgellons disease is coming from the spraying. Is it proven? Very unlikely. Is Morgellons disease occurring? Yes. Are similar synthetic biological things coming up in the rainwater and such? Yes. Are there patents for self-replicating carbon fiber nanotube technology? Yes, there are patents for it. Is it being researched publicly? Yes. It is out there. It is out there, and it's very, very interesting. There's patents on encapsulating viruses in carbon-spun nanotubes, nanotube webs that have viruses spun into them. This technology exists. Okay, food for thought. So getting into the dystopian future where we've got robot personalities and a depopulation agenda where people won't be able to have babies because of the invisible frequency manipulation, the risk for mind control through these frequencies, especially when you're spraying aluminum in the skies and electrifying the skies with high frequency, microwaves. This is all going to be on the ground level and in the sky. So as above, so below. So the thing is when everyone is being affected by these frequencies and nobody is really addressing the elephant in the room because of these trillionaires have on the system, what are we going to do? The only choice we have is to protect ourselves and to learn as much as we can about it and to take health into our own hands and really focus on being the change we want to see. And it's through truth. It's through bringing these truths to the masses and empowering people with the truth. Because the truth, it'll really affect you. It'll piss you off. It'll upset you. It'll crash your world. But it will ultimately set you free. One way, it really will set you free.
We only got about 3 minutes here, Matt, as we talk Chem Trails tonight with Matt Landman. His website, I want to give it out once again, is actualactivists.com. Is this to create new diseases, to see how it affects on people, much like what we've seen with mustard gas or other diseases that have been tested on people in real time?
Yes. Yes. The answer to the question is yes. I can say it firsthand where this story, the thing about my life, brother, is I'm not going to lie, it's been a wild ride. And the thing is I get exposed to these things to learn and to really see the truth firsthand. Otherwise, I wouldn't even believe it. And there was a period of my life, very recent, where I was affected by these antibiotics, ciprofloxacin, called Cipro, C-I-P-R-O. It gave me abrupt tendon rupture in all of my tendons just from one day of eating pills. This thing poisoned me to the point where I was paralyzed. So I learned paralyzed for a month. I mean, like I couldn't walk for a week, and then I slowly recovered. But I had all my tendons. The tendon in my jaw, the tendon in my elbows, every tendon, my ankles, my knees, they ruptured and turned to mush because of pharmaceutical. So I learned about pharmaceuticals that way. I learned about my smart meter the hard way. My smart meter was 5 feet from my head at my home in British Columbia on the Sunshine Coast outside of Vancouver, Canada. And this smart meter, 5 feet from my head, I had to learn the hard way that I developed electromagnetic sensitivity. I thought I was under attack or something. I literally did. And then someone said, what about the smart meter behind your head? Luckily, I didn't vaccinate a kid and have them turn autistic and learn that the hard way or anything like that. But the learning process is different for everybody. And for me, it's just been from doing. So, oh man, I'm totally getting tired. What was the question? I can totally finish it.
Just in regards to, is this a new way to test chemicals on people, much like mustard gas?
Yes, it is, because I just witnessed it. I just did. I witnessed a very low to the ground spraying day, and I drove through this dense fog, which I believe was directly caused from the spraying, and I got so ill immediately with this amazingly resilient, weird flu bug. Yeah, sorry, I get trailing off, but ultimately it comes back to my experiences. I got this, I believe it was a weaponized, aerosolized flu bug, and the spraying is, I believe, directly correlated with this new flu bug that has been all over the country, and I wouldn't be, or all over the continent even, I wouldn't be surprised if we see something even more drastic in the next year or so. Because I do believe that
I do got to cut you off there, buddy, because we do have to get to break here. Matt Landman, our guest on Spaced Out Radio tonight. We're talking Chem Trails, and we're going to be back right after this.
Hello, SOR listeners. Lorian Fenton here. Let me ask you, now that disclosure's happened, what does it mean for ufology? For answers, join us at UFOCon 2018 in South San Francisco, California, March 23rd through 25th. Keynote speakers Stephen Bassett, Grant Cameron, and Melinda Leslie address the current disclosure agenda. Dave Scott, yes, you're Dave Scott, and Lynn Buchanan tell of amazing alien encounters. Get your tickets at caufocon.com. That's caufocon.com.
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want, when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
The first annual Caribou Paracon is happening September 28th to 30th in the 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia, brought to you by the Canadian Society of Questers and Spaced Out Radio. Come listen to our featured speaker, Grant Cameron, along with Elizabeth Anglin, Paisley Town, Mike Moran, Eric Cooper, and more. It's a 3-day supernatural adventure at the Spruce Hills Resort and Spa. Tickets for the weekend are $150 Canadian. The Caribou Paracon, celebrating everything paranormal.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
We're lighting the void on Saturday nights on Spaced Out Radio. Hey, this is Joe Roop, and I'm hanging out in SOR headquarters every Saturday night, bringing you the latest news when it comes to the weird and strange. Bigfoot, occult, UFOs, ghosts, and everything in between, I got you covered. You can tune in to spacedoutradio.com starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time. Come travel into the void with us on Spaced Out Saturdays.
Not ready for bed on Saturday night? Right after Spaced Out Saturdays, hop on over to S4 with Corey Ruiz and me, Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. With S4, there are no limits to what we try and uncover. From government conspiracies to helping clean up the paranormal, no topic is safe on S4. We get to the heart of the matter, of the subjects you want to learn more about. So tune in on S4 starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, only on spacedoutradio.com.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4Cop. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
This is Eric Markham, news editor for the Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter Online. We have put together a great team of writers and journalists from all over the world to bring you top-quality paranormal stories, from alien encounters to the latest conspiracies. You won't find any of that fake news here. True stories and top-notch reporting as we look to bring these experiences to the mainstream. The Encounter Online, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Do you want to know the truth? Do UFOs exist? Are aliens real? Are the governments hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO seekers, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow along with us as we journey across the United States, visiting UFO hotspots and alien hotspots, trying to document the UFO phenomenon. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories.
It's Cosmic Sundays with me, Elizabeth Anglin, in Cosmic Passport. Let me take you down a 3-hour spiritual journey where we will get into everything from ET contact to Psychic Sundays. It's a journey of listening and learning together with some of the best professionals in their fields. You can tune in to Cosmic Passport at spacedoutradio.com every Sunday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and hashtag Spaced Out Radio. And on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back to the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio. Tonight, I am your host, Dave Scott. Great to have you with us. Tomorrow night on the program, author Bobby Richardson is going to join us. We're going to talk humanity and aliens. Humanity and aliens. Is there a connection? We'll find out tomorrow, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. We want to welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. We are live as well on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. We are also live on the Fringe FM, and if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to revolution.radio and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Velocipedestrianism. Velocipedestrianism is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as Bill sets the password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Now, if you want to follow us on social media, you could do so on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio if you want to connect live with me during the show as well. You can watch us live on periscope.tv. You can also follow us on Facebook. Spaced Out Radio Show. Give our page a like. Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio if you want to connect live with me. For our archives, that is. And you can also check out our website, spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club for $5 a month, rock out to some Bumblefoot, shop at the Spaced Out Radio store, read The Encounter online, or watch great videos from UFO Seekers, Contact TV, and so much more. Matt Landman had to pack it in after 2 hours. We caught him on a very long day, so we're glad that Matt was able to get his message through in hours 1 and 2. So tonight we're shifting gears. We got Eric the Awakening Man coming on in here for hour 3. We're going to talk some UFOs, some aliens, some disclosure, because, you know, we're always good for a little alien talk around here. Eric, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing just fine, thank you. Thank you. It's hump day, so...
Before we get started, can I make a quick shout out to the chat room?
Yeah, of course, man.
Okay, well, I want to say hi to Catalina, Sandra, Trip and Fool, John Tyder, Joe Monk, Ron, Tessa. Who else do we got here? We've got the solo rocker guy. I remember, is he a new guy? This gnome guy?
Yeah, that's Ad Gnome. He's been around. Well, he has an addiction to gnomes, so you just got to just let him be. He'll go stand in his own corner and play with the little garden things, you know. So it's okay. It's okay.
He's working on a project, I was told, where he's got some sort of drone set up where he's going to set up some sort of a, marijuana pot system and just spray pot trails throughout the world and just make everybody happy. And that's not too bad an idea, probably.
Well, it will help with if you look at hemp and the studies on how they reproduce carbon into oxygen, it would help. I don't smoke pot, but I tell you, I am very much in favor of it becoming legal. I am very much in favor of the health benefits that a lot of people are having with it, from children on up. And I can also say, the studies that have been done environmentally on it, we're sitting on a very high quality plant, no pun intended, that can really help out mankind. And there's a lot of people both in Washington, D.C. and Ottawa and Ontario that got to get off their asses and realize that this isn't, the demon's hippie lettuce. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's pretty much it. All right. So there was a nice article that came out today. I don't know if you saw it or not. It came out a couple days ago on Fader.com in regards to Tom DeLonge and how he is one incredible UFO researcher, and it's amazing with what he has done with this field. What do you think about that?
I really don't have a problem with Tom DeLonge. I feel a little sorry for him in that he is kind of a young guy. I'm pretty sure he's in his 30s. And I just remember when I was in my 30s, I was full of piss and vinegar, and he went out. I think he did find some information. I think because he had the money and the affordability, he probably had some great night vision binoculars, and he had all the necessary little toys that you'd want to have if you're a researcher. And based on the information that I've been told, he did get some information, and I think that is a link to why he did get kind of invited into this whole To the Stars project. And I think he's like on a timeout right now. If I was going to guess, it's like go to your room, you're on a timeout. So, because he misbehaved a little, he's on a timeout. But I'm not sure that they completely eliminated him from the program, let's say.
I think he is on a timeout as well. And, and that all goes back to the Joe Rogan experience where, he was saying some pretty cursive things. And when you're playing with the big boys on that level, you can't be dropping F-bombs or threatening to show your penis on camera. I don't care how big of a rock star you were. And I don't think that did very well for the group, especially the fact that the videos he chose to prove had already been confirmed as hoaxes as well.
Yeah. Well, I would say this. I have no evidence of this and no proof, but my intuition tells me that he might have been set up unknowingly. I don't think he can be possibly stupid enough to think that he can put that out there, him all by his all lonesome, and think that if he's trying to fool people, I just can't imagine that he would be that dumb. I just think somehow there's some sort of funny business around all that. And we'll probably never know, but it just doesn't make sense that he would make that bad an error in judgment. That's my take
I
on
think,
that.
you know what, though? If you've never partied with rock stars, and I've done it a couple of times in my life, when they get going, they are very hard to stop because they feel they have to perform. And it's not through any fault of their own. It's that they just have to feel like they got to have their game on. You know what I'm saying? And when it starts going down that road, they turn the game up a little bit higher. So, I think he's a distraction. I think he is, I think he's being played. But it's funny how the mainstream media is still all over the Tom DeLonge situation.
I think distraction is the key word. I totally buy that. I think that as long as they could keep us talking about this, that, and the other, we never really get to the real issues. And because I personally, there's a couple guys that I follow on Twitter, and one guy I found recently, just by luck, that has posted some videos that are absolutely phenomenal, that would just completely destroy what they showed us from the Pentagon and what Tom DeLonge posted. And I would have to think that if you're really a good researcher, you would know about these videos that are out there. And I'll put them, I won't do it right now, but I'll put them on the hashtag Spaced Out Radio and send them to you, and you can retweet them if you want. But to me personally, these videos that I will tweet later, they are absolutely 99.9% UFO, non-man-made objects that I mean, several of them. That if the Pentagon put these videos out, then I think the public would be a lot more heightened and alert about this whole message that they're trying to deliver. But I don't think that's really what they're trying to do. I think they are trying to just tease us and distract us and keep us off guard and pretend like they want to have disclosure. I don't really believe they want to have disclosure.
Well, you know what? It's very interesting because from what I am hearing, there is some sort of delay happening with their next piece of information. I'm hearing that the Pentagon or the DOD or DIA, whatever alphabet group it is, has actually put a hold on it right now while they review the tape. Have you heard that as well through your sources?
No, I'll be honest. I go a lot on intuition, and I do research quite a bit. I mean, it's kind of crazy. I really spend at least 10 or 12 hours a day researching, and I pretty much do it 7 days a week. There's some days where I force myself to just go out for 5 or 6 hours and leave my iPad at home. But the bottom line, I think I have a good feel about. I just think that this whole disclosure thing, I'm gonna stop buying it because I know based on the research I've done, they've got so much evidence. You can go into the projects. Like I think I tweeted you recently about Project Moondust, which most people have never heard of. But there's evidence in CIA documents and released documents about a project that was going on in the 50s and 60s, where they had a task group that that was top secret, that they were sending out to crash sites all around the United States. It didn't happen very often. And then there was this guy, his name slipping my mind right now. But anyway, there's one particular guy that you could find him on that was a trained, not necessarily a trained, but they actually selected him to be the ET interfacer.
Hey, Eric.
So whenever they would go to these crash sites.
Eric, if you're walking around or doing whatever, your phone is cutting out every second word here.
I don't know what's happening. Could be my connection. Let's see, I've got.
Now you're.
You hear me okay right now?
Yeah, right there. You're pretty good.
You're cutting out. Yeah, I'm sitting still. I don't know what's going on. I've got 4 bars, so this place I'm staying at here in Cottonwood, which is interesting. Your guest is right down the street from where I'm at. But yeah, I just like your thought of the day, but from a couple days ago, I didn't even see it till today about what would it take to prove that aliens exist. And that was something I'm assuming you discussed a few days ago on your show. What was your general take from that? What were some of the takes that you got from people responding to that? What would it take to prove that aliens exist?
People want scientific proof. They want that body. It's so hard to ask a question like that, and you've heard me ask that question a number of times on the air with everything and the subject. And the problem that we have, especially in this field, is everybody's set of proof is different. And I think that's why we're never going to solve anything. I mean, there are people who are so skeptical out there that, the President of the United States himself could introduce them to an extraterrestrial and they wouldn't believe it. Now I'm being a little facetious here, I know. But I think the problem is with proof. People want a body. People want real evidence. And it's just not out there. And even if it is, people are saying it's CGI. It's fake. And people are done with buying the words, the trust me, I worked there type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I mean, think about it for a second, though. Think about it for a second. We have Luis Elizondo, who ran the United States UFO program right up until he joined To the Stars. And he came out and said, yes, they are real. Yes, this is an issue that we are looking into. And then he said, I believe that UFOs and aliens are on Earth. And here you have the government spook who ran the program saying it, and there's people saying, where's the proof? Now, if that doesn't convince people, I don't know what does. Because to me, when I got the head spook saying that, that tells me he's just admitted it. He's not John Smith who frames houses for a living or pumps gas or is an electrician down the road or whatever. This was the main spook in this program.
I agree.
And that's the problem in this field. That's the problem in this field, is nobody wants to believe. And I question that. And I've been thinking long and hard about this whole what is proof thing lately because it's bugging the hell out of me. But I think it comes down to the whole idea that a lot of people just are set in their ways. They're not going to want to change it, even if it was standing right in front of them, because the one thing that To the Stars has done positively is they brought Luis Elizondo out. And the man who is behind everything, Bigelow, going on 60 Minutes. So these are two powerful men in the field of ufology who've admitted it, that they are here. And still, that's not enough.
Well, let me say this. that because I'm a firm believer in I'm not a supporter of, but a firm believer in that mass mind control has been going on for at least 60 or 70 years. And it's accelerated in its technology, and television has played a big part in that. So what I believe is that it's not, okay, most people, I think if you ask them if they trust their government in the United States, most people will say no. I mean, maybe to some degree, they want to trust certain aspects of the government, but if you just put a general blanket statement out there, do you trust your government? I would have to guess that 80 or 90% are going to say no. So when a government operation or somebody like Elizondo, who's, works in the government position, who, by the way, I believe his information is limited and compartmentalized in that he's not a researcher. There's a lot of people out there that have a lot more knowledge and information than he does, but he was the guy that was selected to discuss this information publicly. But I think the first problem is there's only maybe, I'm going to guess 5 or 10% of the population at the most that even pays attention to this topic. So let's say 10%. So you've got 90% that aren't even paying attention. And then when they hear about it, through some news report or some show on TV, it just doesn't register because they already think that the government's lying to them, so they don't even want to take the time or energy to look at it and analyze it because they've already made up their mind that it's a bullshit story. Pardon my French there, but it's a lot. It has to do with the mind. It has to do with the mind programming, the mind conditioning, the people that are listening to your show, the people that are following this topic. I think they get it. I think they know. I think they believe. And if they don't believe, I could do a seminar in a week, and I'm sure I can convince just about 95% of the people if I wanted to do that, I'm sure I could.
Well, I mean, here's a prime example. Here's a prime example. We got Joseph in the chat room right now. It says, no one gives a flying F about Elizondo. At least intelligent people don't give half a crap about all of that. So, I mean, this is exactly what we've been saying. How could you not care about Elizondo? It doesn't matter the team he is on. The team doesn't matter. Take the man in question for a second. How can you not care about what he says? This is the dude who ran the program. And I don't want to,
You know what? And his president...
Go ahead.
His presentation was a good one. I thought he did a great job. Did you see his talk that he did at the conference here a few weeks ago? It was a 37-minute video that's on YouTube right now. If anyone didn't see his most recent talk, 37 minutes, it's on YouTube. It's the UFO Congress speech that he gave. It was videotaped. But if you after seeing that and hearing him talk, very professional. He doesn't go outside the box. He stays in his lane, but he is not afraid to state his thoughts and his feelings and his opinions. And so I respect that. I don't have a problem with Elizondo. I think he is limited, and he does admit in his talk that he is limited in what he can say, because he did say that he's still under an agreement. There is certain information that he has that he's not allowed to discuss, but he's willing to discuss as much as they're allowing him to discuss.
I would agree with that. I would absolutely agree with that. And I honestly believe that, he's one, if I were to pick one guy on that team that I would trust for information, it would be him. The other ones, I'm not too sure. There's a lot of tie-ins to the aviary on there.
Yeah, I totally agree. Whether people want to believe or not, I totally believe, and I'm gonna just go kind of out there a little ways, but for sure within 5 or 10 years, that's probably less, but for sure in 5 or 10 years, with the way the energy, the momentum, and the information is coming out, and the degree of the awakening that's occurring, the population at large is going to become much more enlightened in the next 5 or 10 years, and probably sooner, but realistically, for sure, in 5 or 10 years, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We're soon going to see. Okay, Joseph is following up. He says, people don't care, Dave, because he is obviously full of crap. Again, intelligent people can call the BS. You don't know that he is full of crap. The agenda is full of crap. That everybody has proven.
Exactly.
If you have followed this story from day one, and Joseph, I'm not saying you're wrong, so please don't think that. That's Joseph in the chat room if you're not in the chat room. Okay.
I'm looking at it.
All right. But, Joseph, I'm not saying you're wrong, but there is a difference between the individual and the agenda. The agenda here has a lot of holes that have not been filled, and the mainstream media is not going to do anything about it. We already know that. But the person who is running the program, I think there's a lot to say. So I do believe you do have to separate that. Now, I'm not trying to create more work for people, but would you agree with that, Eric, that you have to separate the agenda from the person?
Absolutely. The guy's limited. I mean, anybody that discusses this that has any kind of government clearance, they are limited and they know it. But the problem is, if you look at the agenda, like you bring that word up, the agenda, there's too many cooks in the kitchen. There's a lot of people in very elite positions that are, we call it the government, but the reality is these people work in programs and black op programs that are literally beyond the compartment of our traditional government. They do not work in our traditional government. They're not going to Trump every other day and saying, we had a crash out here in Arizona and we sent the crew out and we've got a live ET and we're taking them to Area 51. Trump's not going to get that information. None of these people are going to get that information. So people got to realize that there's people out there blowing the whistle, but they can only blow it so loudly. And so when they do blow it, though, we should listen. And Elizondo, I think, makes a good presentation. He said as much as he's able to say. And I'm already convinced, so I'm not one of these, and I'm not necessarily trying to convince anybody, but if somebody was on the fence and they wanted evidence, they wanted to be convinced, they're welcome to contact me at Awakening Man on Twitter, and I'll be happy to provide them as much evidence as they need to be convinced, because I have it.
You are a research guru. That's why we bring you on here every now and again to talk about UFOs and aliens. By the way, did you catch the show with Jody Cook last week, the Dogman and Bigfoot researcher?
I listened to that. I'm not, you know what? I'm becoming more of a cryptic, what do they call them? Cryptozoids or what do they call them? Cryptics, right?
Cryptid. With the D.
Cryptid. I'm becoming more, I totally believe in Bigfoot. I am convinced based on the information that I've gotten from people who I trust who've actually experienced Bigfoot, including you. Stories that I've heard, I do believe that they're a form of ET. I don't think that they reside here on this planet and they're out there eating, snakes and lizards and deer and fish out of the river to survive. I don't believe that's how they're surviving. I think they come and go. And, I don't think we're ever going to find a live Bigfoot. Anybody that says, I shot a Bigfoot, I killed a Bigfoot, I've got them stored in my freezer, that's probably a hoax. I just don't think that's going to happen. So, but I do believe in these dogmen, all these crazy stories, the Rougarou. I don't know if you ever saw that show. It ran for a little while back, several years ago, about the Rougarou, and it was like this creature that I'd never heard of before. But after seeing that show, and watching these people that were involved in the show, I was convinced that there's this cryptid creature that's out in the Louisiana, the swamplands. There's these strange creatures that exist that come and go. Whether they're interdimensional or multidimensional. They're not living here on the planet in some cave hiding out, and because they're not the world's greatest hide and seek creatures. Anybody that thinks that that's what's happening, I don't buy that. But yeah, that's my take on that.
Well, you know what? It's something that I can, I believe in them, but you got to listen to that section. And I'm telling our audience here, if you haven't listened to our show last week on YouTube with Jody Cook, you have to take a listen to it, because I think it was late in the second hour or third hour, he gets into a story where he was talking with a former Special Forces officer who actually was on an alien kill team. Now, Jody is as straight up as they come. He is absolutely straight up, straightforward, show me proof, 5 senses kind of guy. He's not really into the whole woo-woo, as people like to refer it as. And he said this guy's stories blew him away about these dog-like creatures that came down, and they were in South America, and his team, this guy's team, this Special Forces team, had to go in there and whack them because they were causing too many troubles. And they have special weapons that get to these aliens, and it was just absolutely weird. And then he followed it up by saying that he believes that Dogman could possibly be an alien creature.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you a quick story. Have you heard of Lori McDonald? Does that ring a bell to you?
Yes.
That's somebody that would be fantastic to have on your show one time. I'll tell you a story that evolved right out of here, right out of Sedona, Cottonwood, Arizona. There's this guy, Javi Sandoval, who does these conferences here. And he ran into this guy. He's an experiencer. He sees UFOs right off in the mountains out here. And there's another guy named Tom Dongo that's lived here for 30 years that's told me, I'll tell you another story a little later. But anyway, the point is Lori McDonald was told a story about these giant spider beings in the Vietnam jungle in Asia. And she was so convinced of the evidence that she researched prior to booking her flight and flying out there and traveling and staying in the jungles with the natives. She was out there for 2 weeks to research this. I mean, you think about it, what sane human would want to go all the way to Vietnam to research giant spiders unless they were convinced that there was some truth to it. So she went out there, and there's these spider beings that are just like Bigfoot, just like Dogman, interdimensional type beings that appear and disappear in the Asian jungles. And if you do the research, what was going on in Vietnam, and why were we in Vietnam so long, and what was the purpose of that war? People need to ask these questions in their own mind. And then if they really want to understand, you go dig deep into the rabbit hole. They called them enemy helicopters. There were freaking UFO orbs flying all around during the Vietnam War. I have a good friend in Texas that was in the Vietnam. Did 3 tours. And it took a long time for him to share some stories with me before he knew me and trusted me enough. And I promised I would never say his name or tell his story publicly. But he was in special services. He worked in Operation Phoenix. He was actually part of the MK Ultra program. Didn't realize it. They were injecting him with chemicals that were actually giving him night vision through his natural eyesight to be able to see these creatures. I mean, it's a bizarre story. Anybody listening right now is probably thinking I'm completely nuts, but believe me, I've researched it, and I trust this guy, and I trust these people. They're not out there publicly telling these stories because they know they would be accused of being insane, but these are the kind of stories that I'm hearing. So I believe totally in cryptoids. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that they exist. That's my take on that.
That's heavy, man. Are you okay? Did you breathe during that one?
It's very heavy.
Yeah.
I did. I mean, it's bizarre. It's bizarre.
It is very bizarre. It is very bizarre. And, it is something that, in the end, there are a lot of stories out there. And the problem with this field is, and the mainstream culture, is how much of this, especially ex-military, have seen what is going on, but have absolutely refused to come out and say anything. Not because they were ordered not to say anything, but because of the humiliation that they would get from the public. That's a hard pill for a lot of good men and women to swallow, is the humiliation that they would take off of this. And, that I feel bad for them. I really do, because you could tell that many people would love to get the story out. Many people would love to get the story out. You know, they just can't, whether it's contractually or legally binding or whatever it is. But they just can't.
Or they've got a fat pension, or they've got a lot of money, and they've got friends that have no idea what they experience, that they just want to live their life and enjoy their life. And I said to the guy, I said, look, you know, if you want to get some regression hypnosis and find out, because he told me flat out after he was trained as an assassin. Okay. He's got his records that he had 90 kills. He says he does not remember after his first kill. He has no memory, but yet they have records. And then he goes, he can't remember a large chunk of his childhood and almost none of his military that he has recall of. So I said to him, I said, you know, if you want to know, I can connect you to some. Laurie McDonald is an excellent hypnotherapist. I mean, they can help you retrieve these memories, but I don't know that you'd want to know this information. He said, you know, you're right. I don't want to know because it could just completely destroy my whole paradigm. I'd rather just not know. And that's how these people function. And the ones that you see in the United States, a lot in California, especially in Los Angeles, you see a lot of homeless people that are ex-military that were, you know, in the wars, that people call them crazy. You know, they have no credibility because they're homeless and they appear to be crazy. But these people were highly damaged from their experiences to the point where people just don't believe them. But these are the people that have stories to tell that if they were told, it would blow some minds. Let me tell you, I've heard some stories that are mind-blowing. They're completely mind-blowing. I've heard many of them. And, you know, these people aren't making this stuff up. They're not writing a book. They're not doing a movie. They're not out there publicly speaking in these conferences. They want nothing to do with it. They don't share these stories just anonymously. They've got to get to know you. They want to trust you. They see they know I'm a researcher. They know I want to understand. So I'm telling these stories without giving names because I promised that that's what I would do. And so I'm not trying to be like some hero or some braggadocious person. I'm just sharing information that I've learned. And if your listeners are enjoying it or it's helping them, that's really the purpose of it.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. I do agree the message does need to get out. You know, the question is, and getting back to full circle what we started talking about, what is proof?
Well, I mean, there's layers. It's like anything. I mean, is there proof that we live in a multi-dimensional universe? I mean, people talk about, 13 dimensions, 12 dimensions, 14 dimensions, and, we're in the third dimension. We're here on the 3D, and there's a fourth dimension. But a lot of people think, no, we just skip the fourth dimension. We go to the fifth dimension, and they argue about that. And then I've heard of people that are Palladian and so on and so forth that exist in the seventh and eighth dimension. I mean, we can't prove any of this. But these people, I believe, through their DNA and through this somehow they are awakened or they're triggered. I don't know how it happens. There's a boatload of these people that live in Sedona, Arizona. That's why I'm here right now, because I get to meet them, talk to them, and I just want to play dumb. I don't try to judge them. I don't try to analyze them while they're telling their stories. I just listen. And then I go and I research. And then if I find validity in what they're saying, or I find other people that are saying the same thing, I give them a call and I say, hey, let's have lunch. I met with this guy, Tom Dongo, who's 73 years old, that's lived right here in Sedona for 30 years, used to do tours right here in the area. And he told me some stories that were completely mind-boggling. One time he was doing a tour out here near Bradshaw Ranch. He had an area that he would take his people out to, his little I might have told you this story before. If I have, stop me. But they saw a UFO come over the mountain, a massive craft, and hover and land, and these light-type beings came out. And he tells the story like it happened yesterday. And, he told me the story a few months ago, and I told him like a few days ago, I had lunch with him. I said, tell me that story again. I forgot exactly what you told me the first time. And he told me the story again, and he repeated it exactly verbatim. the same story he told me 2 months ago. So that's how you kind of test people a little bit. You kind of, okay, are they going to tell the same story? Are they going to add a twist to it? Are they going to omit certain information? Are they going to add certain information? This is part of what I do as a researcher. I don't just take the first story and run with it. I sit on it. I ask other people. I come back later, and this is, for me personally, that's how I become convinced. I have no evidence. I have no proof. I couldn't convince anybody 100% anything I'm saying is true. It's all intuition. It's all based on people's personal experiences, their personal accounts. You just got to either decide if you trust them or you don't. That's all you can really do. That's my take on that.
Yet there's still going to be that argument. There's still going to be that argument.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difficulty, is because for everybody who comes out and says this is truthful, we don't have a lot of proof. Going the other way for the people who say they need more than just video evidence, photographic evidence, or someone's, sworn testimony on it.
I've got some photographic evidence that I'm going to guess 99% of your audience hasn't seen before, and I will tweet it out. And I want to say shout out to Wolfman. Wolfman, I miss you. I see him. He's in the chat room. He has proof. Wolfman is an experiencer. I trust Wolfman. He's got some things going. He knows what's going on in Canada. And I trust you, Dave. I know you've told your stories. I've heard your stories. And I heard you talking about you're not sure, you're a little nervous about your talk here in San Francisco. Don't be nervous, dude. Go out there and tell your story.
Oh, I'm not nervous about telling the story. I'm nervous about the whole idea of using a frigging PowerPoint that I've never done. That's what has me nervous.
Don't even trip on that. You know what? There was I'll just tell you straight up front right now, just so you know. Last year, I was at the same conference you're going to, and there were a few people that had some problems with their PowerPoint, and it wasn't their fault. It was the guy that was running it. So Lorraine Denton is responsible to make sure that these guys are on top of things, but there's sometimes glitches that are beyond our control. So if it does happen, don't trip on it. Just roll with it. Tell your story. You personally do not need a PowerPoint presentation. It is nice to have. But the bottom line is that people are going to tune into your energy. They're going to tune into what you're saying, and that's all that really matters. It's not what's on the screen behind you.
Yes, very true.
So
I know it's going to be fun. I know it's going to be absolute fun. And it's something that I'm very much looking forward to. I mean, geez, it's 23 days away until I leave. That's kind of cool. That's very, very
cool. I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited.
Yeah,
the Secret Service was there last year. Did you hear that story?
I did hear that.
It was bizarre. Yeah, I took several pictures of the Secret Service guys very covertly with my iPad, and they had some bizarre badges on their lapels, on their suits, and they would not communicate. And actually, here's what's bizarre: is I had a room. I think it was on the 8th floor. And the building, the same building that you're going to be at, and coincidentally, unbeknownst to me, all the Secret Service had the entire 8th floor, and I don't know why in the hell they put me up there, but I was up there. So every time I went up and down that elevator, the only people I saw were Secret Service and the families of the Secret Service people that were there. And I was so cool. One time I walked by the room, and one of the Secret Service guys was in the room, and he had the door open. He was watching the basketball game that was going on because it was March Madness. And I saw him sitting way across in this chair in a suit and tie, and I was playing dumb. I said, "Hey, how's it going? How's the game going?" And he got up all nervous and walked towards the door like, "Oh shit!" He didn't even realize. He's like, he was probably trying to figure out why is this civilian citizen up here on the 8th floor with all of us Secret Service people. But, it was a trip. The whole experience was a trip, but you're going to love it. You're going to have a great time. It's going to be a blast. San Francisco's got a lot of cool energy to it. You're going to enjoy it.
Yes, it's going to be a lot of fun, and I know you're coming up for it. I know we have, I think, from the audience, I believe Kevin or Kevin's Beard, we're not sure which one, is going to be showing on up. I believe there's Catalina who may come, Teresa who may come, there is Tessa who may come. So there's a number of people. We're going to make a big spaced out radio party there. That's what we want.
Yeah,
big spaced out radio party.
You guys got to come with me. These conferences, there's nothing. I mean, I'll tell you right now, I live for them now. There's nothing that's more fun and enjoyable and interesting than these conferences. The people you meet and the level of intellect and knowledge and wisdom and true accounts that you get to hear that you will not hear on the radio or any program. I mean, when you're in a bar, for example, and you're sitting down next to some guy and you have a drink or two and they start chatting with you and all of a sudden they're telling you stories. And these stories are awesome. Let me tell you, the stories are great. You're going to love it. You're going to have a great time.
Well, and don't forget, you got to get your butt up here in late September for our Paracon. Because we got some
I think I will. I have to get my passport. But
you
yeah,
should.
If Wolfman, I'll come if Wolfman agrees to come also, because I know he's in Canada.
Dude, you're like 50. You're like 1,500 miles away. He's like 3,000 miles away.
Well, the bottom line is he's in Canada. Wolfman needs to make he needs to step up and get out and start exploring the world. He needs to get out of his little bubble.
I don't even know if he knows where BC is.
I'm teasing him because I haven't seen him in any chat room. But you saying okay? I love the Wolfman. Wolfman was actually the first guy that I ever heard on Monster Castle Paranormal when I first started listening to podcast radio a few years ago. And he was the very, very first person that I found and tuned into. So I have that connection with him. And then it evolved into several other shows, and now it's evolved into your show. So, that's why I'm talking to you. You're my favorite guy right now. There's nobody else that I'm going to call in and talk to about these things. That's the truth.
And I appreciate that. Yeah, I would love to see you up here for ours. That's for sure. That is for sure. It would be very, very good. And once tickets go on sale, probably in the next month to 2 months, it's only 150 Canadian. I mean, that's like $120 American for 3 days. Guaranteed a UFO watch put on by UFOI team out of Washington State. They got all the gadgets and gear. Like the night vision.
Oh, so you're right across from Washington State?
I'm right north of Washington State, yeah.
Okay, I'll be there because I need to go to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, which is right near Washington State. And so you're right across the what is that, like a river? Or what do they call that body of water that separates you guys?
It's called a border.
But there's water. I don't know what type of.
Well, there's a couple of rivers. You got the Columbia River. You have the Fraser River.
Yeah. I could get on a ferry or a boat and go from the Washington State, Seattle, whatever, and just float right over to where you are, right? I mean,
no, you don't need a ferry to get to me, man. We're connected by land. We usually use.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm going to break something down for you, man. It's been a couple of years. We just got them, but we just got roads up here. We just got, and you know what? They're paved roads. So no, I'm just teasing.
I'll make a sincere effort to do this. But if my health is good, I will be there. I'll give you my word right now. My health, as long as my health is good, which I plan on it being good, but you never know what can happen. But
so for the 150,
I need an escape route because let me tell you right now, the United States is in trouble. I mean, I'm not going to go all political on you. We're in trouble. I mean, I'm hoping somehow that there's going to be some miracle that's going to occur. But, I might have to escape to either Mexico or Canada because I don't know that I want to live under the tyranny of what's coming. What appears
Turks and
to be
Caicos, man. Turks and Caicos. They're trying to amalgamate with Canada to become our 11th our 11th province. Turks and Caicos. Wow. That's where you go. Hide there. Yes.
So we let's talk. We got about 12 minutes, and we can do overtime if you want. But let's talk about some more aliens. Enough of this other stuff that we've been chatting about. What other alien UFO stories you want to address or bring up for your list?
My goodness! I had a friend of mine. I was talking to a friend of mine today, and she has been dealing with some really bad ET issues, and especially reptilian, over the last 6 months. And it has literally pushed her entire connections out of the water. It's blown them out of the water. Like, she literally has no connection. Like, she's one of the people I go to when I have questions. And it was strange, because she's like, what do I do? She goes, I have no idea what to do. And usually I have an answer for something. But have you ever heard of the term love bites?
I've heard the term, yes.
Not the Def
I'm not sure how it applies to the reptilian.
Not the Def Leppard song. Okay, no, we're not going back to the album Hysteria around 1989. Good quality album. Let's face it, that was a high quality album. The first one with Rick Allen, without the arm. So fantastic album. Anyways, getting back to focus, a love bite by an alien is where they put another contactee that they have been dealing with in your path. Okay, and they put all of your focus apparently on this one person, because they are not only using you as part of the hybridization program, but they are using that other person as well. And this is a very faithful person to her husband, and very straight up, no BS kind of person. And it's just, she's going through this right now, and we're trying to figure out how to deal with it.
Okay. Here's the bad news. I kind of think that, like your guest was Miss Orozco. Was that her name that you had on last night? Lorraine? I forget her first name.
Geraldine Orozco.
Orozco, yes. She was phenomenal. I did some research on her. She's the real deal. Anybody that, I'm sure most of the guys in the chat room were listening last night, but I did some research, and I'm excited. She's going to be there at the conference in San Francisco. She's a beautiful woman too, by the way. I mean, I'm sure you saw that. But she's the real deal, and I have a lot of respect for her. She was able to do the research, and she was obviously, my take on what was going on with her is she was going through these experiences, and the hybridization program, if you had to put a gun to my head and say yes or no, I would have to say yes, it's real. And if I don't have any evidence of it, and I'm not so sure she does, but I've heard enough stories from enough different people. So what she was talking about last night was very real, and she was very eloquent and very educated. You could tell that she wanted to get out of this program that she was involved in, and hats off to her. But yes, this reptilian thing, if people are being exposed to this or being somehow tied in with it, and they're having these experiences, they've got to have the self-determination to get out of that. And there probably is a way out. I couldn't tell you simply how, but you've got to be committed. It's a process. I mean, we don't choose this when we come into this world. I don't think, but somehow we wake up and realize that some of these people are experiencing these things, and they either live with it or they figure out a way to get out. And it's a process. It's not just simple. It's not simple. So whoever your friend is, I mean, she's got to realize if she wants to tackle this, it takes time and energy and effort. And that's the only chance she has.
Well, you know what? I'm going to be getting her. I gave her a few names today to deal with because, she needs to be able to talk to someone. I think this is way above my level of knowledge. Way too deep for old Davy. Way too deep.
There are people out there that can help her, though.
Oh, yes, and I told her to get a hold of Misha Johnson or Melinda Leslie about it. So it's really good.
And Lori McDonald is an excellent hypnotherapist, and she is very well known here. She lives in California.
Yes.
Anyway, yeah,
good
there's
Canadian,
a lot of people out there that have
good
they
Canadian
can't do
kid.
it. They know people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Lori's
she is Canadian, actually.
She
yeah.
is a good Canadian
Very
kid.
good. I
Man.
forgot that.
Yeah, from Toronto.
Totally, she's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, beautiful woman. She has vibrant blue eyes and very highly intelligent, highly connected. And if anyone ever doesn't know who she is, do some research on Lori McDonald. I mean, we got to get her on your show. If you want to get her on, I'll put the word out. To her.
Lori and I get along. Lori and I get along great. We absolutely get along great. So I can call her up and
scheduling her though. She's got some stories.
Yeah, you know what? It is almost time. It is almost time to bring her back. You know, I've almost booked up with April though. I only got like 3 dates left in April.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and this lady that you've got coming on, my friend Suzanne Ross. I had dinner with her last night. And we talked for 2 hours, and I'm going to actually do a little Periscope interview with her tomorrow, and I'll send it out to you, and so you can kind of see who she is, and you'll get more of a feel. I'm going to go to her home, and I'm going to talk to her, and you'll want to do some video and whatnot. But look, what is that? When are you going to have her later on? And when you come back from San Francisco, I think she's going to be on sometime towards the end of next month. Is that when you've got her scheduled, Suzanne Ross?
Mm-hmm.
If I believe.
She'll be coming on March 29th.
Yeah, she lives in Arizona, out in the Rimrock area, and then she grew up right in the Gila Mountain areas, which is right on the border of California and Arizona in the desert. And I'll make sure that she tells you her story, her story, and her family's been through experiences. And her sister, I don't know that she'll talk about it on your show, but her sister was involved in military projects, and that story, I don't know that she'll share that, but if she won't, I'll share it with you privately off the air. But she's got some great stories. So once you hear her story, and then she tells you about her research and the books that she has written, people are going to they're going to enjoy her. I'm just saying, I'm looking forward to that. It's a ways down the road. It's going to be fun.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be a lot of fun. We got some good guests coming up here, next week, and it's actually a pretty good couple, shaping out to be a good couple of months coming up here, which is going to be nice. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And I talked to Geraldine. I know I had a lot of questions last night about whether or not I was going to be bringing Geraldine back on the show. I did talk to her last night. We're going to look at doing something every second month with her, because I think she's just a great gift, and I think if we cultivate that, I think she could bring a lot more to the table, than the little snippets that she gave us last night, when we will have more time to go in depth on certain topics. So it's going to be very interesting indeed. She reminds me a lot of Samantha Mowat, and like a good mixture between Samantha Mowat and Elizabeth April, who we've had on the show.
Yeah, good call right there. Excellent. Very good. I agree with you totally on that.
Yes.
Very good call. And she's got a great candy business. I don't know if you know that, in San Francisco. She's quite a successful entrepreneur.
Yes.
Trust me, she's doing well.
Absolutely. My friend, you hold on, because I got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal playing in the background with Little Brother Is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Also, go to sonsofapollo.com, where his new band is about to go on tour. See where they're coming. They might be coming near you. It's phenomenal. Sons of Apollo. We want to say a big thank you to Matt Landman for coming on in hours 1 and 2, talking to us about Chem Trails tonight. And we also want to say thank you to Eric the Awakening Man, coming on in hour 3 to talk a little bit of UFOs, disclosure, and whatever else just comes up. The good part about when Eric comes on, it's just a great conversation about a whole lot of topics. And it's just a free-for-all. That's what makes it so much fun and so fast. And I even forgot the thought of the day today. I ran out of time. That's my fault. But that's okay. Tomorrow night on the program, all the way from Australia, author Bobby Richardson is going to join us. We're going to be talking humanity and aliens. How do the two coincide? We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time, at spacedoutradio.com. I want to say a big thank you to our audience who are listening at home, listening at work, in their cars, wherever you may be tonight. Kevin and Kevin's Beard, you be safe down in Texas right now where that water level is pretty high, man. Don't scare me in the chat room like that, brother. Don't scare me like that. I got to make sure that my audience is A-OK all the time. I want to say a big thank you to everybody watching on Periscope tonight, everybody on Spreaker, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio, and of course the Veterans Club, the SOR Space Travelers on Facebook. Thank you so much for making this an absolute fun night. I can't wait to do it again tomorrow. I hope you join me. Continue sharing the shows. Continue spreading the word, because together, my friends, we own the night. I will talk to you in 21 hours from now. Thank you so much for being with us. Appreciate your time. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. See you later. Have a good night.